Hello.
All right.
This is the 80th episode of the Funfiltered podcast.
Oh,
Did you?
well, yeah, no, but yeah.
Right. We're recording on the 9th of August, or as it's otherwise known, National Book Lovers Day.
You should believe then.
Sam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's Sam. I'm Jordan.
All right.
Yes, Sam.
Yeah.
When was the last time you made love to a book?
Literally. Literally.
Well, I'm curious what your answer is, if you feel you have to clarify this off the bat.
Okay, well, because you can distinguish, can't you, between, having such an intense experience with a book that it's like a love affair.
Okay.
Or you're asking the last time I literally fucked a book. Because the first one, never. The second one, a few days ago.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's meet in the middle. When's the last time a book made you come?
A book. Can it have pictures?
I think we're steering away from pornographic material if this is the direction you're going in.
So it can't be on the internet.
No.
And it can't not be a book.
No.
Never then.
Okay.
What about you?
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never
read a book.
Yeah. Honestly, this today in particular is it's not a very good one. It's National Book Lovers Day.
Yeah.
It's National Women's Day.
Ugh.
It's National
Is it?
Yeah.
Today's National Women's Day?
Yeah.
Oh, but not International Women's Day.
No, National.
That's the one you hear about.
Okay.
Okay. National as in the UK.
Yeah, only local women are celebrated today.
Yes. Is it the UK? Is it a .co.uk website you're on?
It's a .com website, so it could be...
America.
It could be American women.
Okay.
But yeah, National Book Lovers Day, National Women's Day, National Melon Day, National Holding Hands Day. These are all things that I have no experience with.
I know.
So there's no jokes to be made here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Of all the things I've said on this podcast,
yeah.
Okay, maybe it's not true that yours is worse, but I think just in isolation, you extract a clip of you going, God, today's it's so rubbish. National Women's Day. I think competes for the most grossly offensive.
I feel like I gave it enough context.
Yeah.
When I made my statement. So people want to take that out of context.
It was really self-deprecating.
That's their crime. Yeah, yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the fool here.
You're the illiterate virgin.
Who doesn't like melons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right then, coming up.
All right. We review Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
The Bikeriders.
The third season of The Bear.
Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F.
The miniseries Douglas is cancelled.
The Acolyte, Season 1.
And I Saw the TV Glow. That's a film, not me just saying that. Okay, let us commence with a review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
All right, okay, we'll start with this one.
We'll start with this one.
Okay.
Do you want to premise it? You're more of an ape man than I.
How dare you? As if me saying that I've never held hands and I have no experience with women.
You must have held hands.
And I don't like melon, and now you're calling me an ape man.
Well, apes, actually, it's kind of the inverse, isn't it? Because an ape, they just like a rat. There is no, an ape is like, "Rrr." When you call someone an ape, it's not like you virgin. It's like the opposite of that, isn't it? It's like you just fuck everything, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, so take it as,
Okay.
Yeah, you virginal simian.
Right.
Continue.
Anyway, yes. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
It's the fourth of the reboot films?
Yeah.
Although technically it's the first film in a new... Well, the plan is for it to be a new trilogy.
Yes, the fourth in the circus continuity.
Yeah. It's canonical to the circus films, but it takes place a couple hundred years after.
Yeah. It's a soft reboot.
Yeah. It's all sort of completely different now. Mm-hmm. None of the characters from the first one are even alive by the time this film is taking place, so it's an all-new cast. Ape Society has moved forward somewhat.
Yeah.
Since the death of Caesar, so the world is completely different now. Mm-hmm. Very The Last of Us. Everything's kind of overgrown. Nature's kind of reclaimed.
I hate that.
The Earth. Well.
Well, now The Last of Us will be the point of comparison for things like that, whereas that was derivative. I remember thinking, oh god, how many things? Like when I saw The Last of Us and it's been praised as just amazing. I was like, I've seen that. I remember thinking back then, that's not. I've seen that 1,000 times before.
What, specifically nature, like a natural apocalypse?
Well, yeah, in terms of an apocalypse where nature has overrun everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Loads of times.
Okay.
But continue.
But would you allow me to?
No, you
to use that as a point of comparison.
It's just irks me.
Okay.
Because I was born in 1994.
Okay.
Go on.
Well, The Last of Us came out in 2013, so what's your...
Well, my point being that I think to the young, say Gen Z or what are they called now? Alpha? We started again, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
I think to them, The Last of Us would be an apt 0.0.
Okay.
For me, it's a latter installment in the canon.
Which you can't even name.
Well, I can't go to, like, post-apocalyptic... I mean, I can name you loads of post-apocalyptic movies. But you think The Last of Us was the genesis point for apocalypse overrun by nature?
No, it probably wasn't, but it probably is the main point of comparison now.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not quibbling.
Okay.
Carry on.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm annoyed that it's accurate. I'm not arguing with your accuracy.
Yeah.
I'm arguing with the fact of it.
Right, okay. So anyway, there are apes. Yeah. There are apes. There are more apes than there have ever been before. Mm-hmm. We follow Noah.
Yeah, without the H.
Noah without the H. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just an ape.
Just an ape.
Just an ape guy in his ape village with his ape friends and his ape family.
Mm-hmm. We should extract that little piece of audio as well.
Other apes sort of raid his village.
Yeah, it's kind of become tribalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there seem to be now, like, rather than before where it was the humans and the apes.
Yeah.
Now there are, like, pockets of ape society.
Yeah, now humans there are scarcity. There are barely any left. All diseased, can't speak, all that kind of thing.
Well, there's like a scene later on in the film where there's like a group of humans sort of grazing alongside zebra, which I think is a very deliberate image to kind of show you as to where humanity is in the food chain now.
Yes.
Yeah, so Noah's village gets kind of raided and attacked, and all of his fellow village apes are taken somewhere, and he goes to hunt them down and find out what's going on.
That's the plot. Yeah, so I know the titles for these films, they've always been unwieldy, but before I even tuned into this one, it occurred to me how silly it was.
Kingdom of the Planet.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, like, is Of the Apes not sufficient brand recognition? War of the Apes, Dawn of the Apes, Kingdom of the Apes.
Yeah.
It's better, isn't it?
Well, that's nice in the sense that you would theoretically lead up to Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
That's the kind of logical endpoint.
Dawn of the Apes.
Dawn of the Apes, yeah. Well, but it's the same problem. We got Rise of the Apes before Dawn of the Apes.
I know, but what comes first? I mean, Dawn or Rise?
Yeah.
I guess Dawn?
Well, the sun has to rise for there to be a dawn, doesn't it?
They're the same thing, aren't they? The sun rising is dawn, so... Yeah, silly. But yes, no, I think it's like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's a bit like, let's tone it down there. I thought it was very good.
Yes.
I thought it was a really good time.
Okay. I'm going to say it.
Go on.
What a wonderful film.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Because that was, for me, when that line punctuated, I think it was like the first trailer.
Yeah.
That for me was like, oh, okay.
That and Furiosa, I had similar feelings about. With like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
It's looking goofy.
Yeah. Maybe this is just like, we're stepping a bit too far over the line.
Yeah.
But somehow they keep managing to keep these films in check.
Yeah.
Where they do have like a slight sense of humour. What's the name of the orangutan in this?
Is it Raka?
Raka.
I think his name is.
Yeah. Like, that's a fun character. In the context of the world that they're occupying, it's a fun character. But everything has, like, proper gravity to it.
Yeah, it's uncommon with blockbuster films now. It was more common back in the noughties, and certainly before that, where you have kind of a family-oriented, there's something for everyone, serious story with, themes, a comic relief character, but, like, it was a serious kind of film that was just, it wanted to entertain people.
Yeah.
But now, that's because Marvel is really the thing for that. It's infested with, it's got to have humour. It has to be very self-aware and kind of self-critical in a way. These films aren't like that. They're serious films, but have a bit of humour in them.
Yeah.
Appropriately. Like, I watched The Mummy, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy.
Okay.
And The Mummy Returns recently, again. And they have more humour than this, but that was kind of the prototypical 90s blockbuster. And was the last of its kind in a way, actually, because after that, you're talking about The Mummy is 1999, Mummy Returns 2001, Spider-Man's 2002, X-Men's 2000. All of a sudden, then, like, adventure films got completely usurped by superhero films. And we don't get films like that anymore. And when they try and do them again, like The Mummy with Tom Cruise, they fall completely flat.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, so this film does have a sense of humour, but it is taking its subject and its story seriously. Caesar, so the Andy Serkis ape, looms over the film a lot more than I expected.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that a lot. It's kind of predictable, like, going in, you might expect this, but his legacy being bastardized is interesting. And while Raka, so that orangutan, fundamentally understands Caesar's nature I like the muddiness of him being incorrect about apes, understanding written language and the nature of an airport. Initially, I thought the 300 years, so it's been 300 years since the end of the war, it might not be long enough for understanding to break down so much. So I liked it when we see that the humans still know their history. Because, we meet this group of humans that are verbal and are intelligent, and they know exactly what happened. I was like, within the scope of 300 years, in the modern day, we would remember. We would know.
Yeah.
But apes wouldn't. So I liked that. It's kind of a nice little bit of nuance there.
Yeah.
I liked Raka a lot. I liked him. He's not dead, right?
I think he is, Sam.
No, he's not. He's not. No.
There are 3 apes in this film that die being swallowed up by a big body of water, and Raka is one of them.
No, he's not. There's an ambiguity there. They've left it open. Will you concede there's an opening for him to return?
I don't think there is.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I would say it's. I wouldn't say the whole point is he alive? Is he dead? But there's definitely he could be alive.
I mean, only in the sense that we didn't see his corpse.
Well, yeah,
but he got washed away in a
but he got
rapid.
He got washed away in a rapid. It's not like falling into a volcano. It's okay, there's a scenario where you survive that.
I think you're in denial.
No, I'm not in denial.
I think you are.
I'm not in denial.
That was a death scene.
Okay, tell you what, right? I will accept it if he's dead. Okay, but I want you to come on this podcast and eat a hat. If he comes back in the sequel to this.
I don't want him to be dead. I like him.
No, but you're saying there's not even an ambiguity. And I want you to come back on this podcast and eat a hat if he's still alive.
I don't think they should bring him back. Like I said, I don't want him to be dead.
Okay.
But I think his death did mean something.
Yeah.
Not just to the characters, but it means something to the film.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
I want Raka back. I liked him. I liked the way he spoke.
Okay.
For the most part, the film balances the campiness of talking apes with the serious subject matter deftly. But yes, the idea of apes wearing pendants and crowns and going, yes, is just funny.
It is funny.
It didn't detract, though. It's part of the fun for me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's nice because Proximus, he's in all of the marketing, he's on all the posters, he's not really in that film. He's not in the film that long.
No, he's not.
He's in maybe 3 or 4 scenes, 10 minutes total. You
Yeah.
rarely see him. And most of it is him going, yes, I am king.
Yeah.
I want the power. But he's not a one-dimensional villain. They've actually found a pretty clever way of showing, what he wants and getting you to a point where you understand it. Because it seems like, in terms of ape evolution in general, it's not that it's slowed down since War for the Planet of the Apes. Because obviously between Rise and War, I don't know how many years that story takes place.
Yeah.
But the apes evolve very, very quickly during that state.
Yeah.
Considering that Caesar's the only one who's even, remotely intelligent at the beginning of Rise, and then by the end of War, it's an entire society.
Yeah, it's kind of an explosion, isn't it? It's like an explosion of consciousness and then decelerated.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten worse, but in this film, they're not fully conversant.
Yeah, their vocabulary is sort of equal to where it was at the end of War.
Yeah.
But what seems to have changed about them is they're kind of going through their caveman phase, I guess.
Yeah.
Noah's tribe are training eagles, so they're training animals now.
Yeah.
And they're kind of building structures, and they've got a basic... They conduct ceremonies and stuff, so there's a culture that's forming.
I mean, in real time, it would probably take more than 300 years, but I like that they've not treated the 300-year gap as, so we can, by the end of it, they're using smartphones.
Yeah.
It's no, in real world terms, you're still probably talking a few thousand years between the end of War and any kind of significant development. But I can live with where we are after 300 years.
Well, it's nice, because think of where humankind was 300 years ago.
Yeah.
You could look at that and go, well, 300 years ago, we didn't even have, toilets.
But I mean, 300
fine.
years ago now is probably the most significant period of change.
Yeah.
For, most of our life, it was basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
We've been around for 200,000 years, and not much has really happened until about, maybe 10,000 years ago. Otherwise he was wandering around in the desert.
Yeah. But with Proximus...
Yeah.
His goal is that he wants power. He wants to evolve. He wants to evolve past the point that he would naturally evolve during his natural lifetime.
Yeah. Legacy.
Yeah. And the way that he's chosen to go about doing that is he seems to have misunderstood human history.
Yeah.
and what knowledge can provide you. So, like, there's a moment, it's in the trailers as well, where he says to Noah, humans, they used to be able to fly like eagles, and they could speak across oceans. Now, we know that when he's saying that, he's talking about aeroplanes and, like, telecommunications.
Yeah, it's how someone would speak metaphorically about humans. Yeah.
But he's taking that literally.
Yeah.
So he seems to be of the mind that the knowledge of human history will actually give him the ability to fly.
Yeah, will activate kind of super ape humanity sort of thing. Yeah.
And obviously his, like, power-hungry mind is like, I want to fly. I want to speak across oceans.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of misunderstanding that all of the apes seem to have. That is what has kind of motivated the villain's power lust.
Yeah, well, the villain, as usual with these films, does have a nub of a point.
Yeah.
You know, he's more overtly nefarious than his predecessors, I would say, but it's completely natural to want to access that vault.
Yeah.
It's the human longing for... I mean, there's a big thing in this film where they look through a telescope, and it's left deliberately ambiguous what they see, but it's something clearly awe-inspiring, and that's, the human, and now ape, obviously, tendency to gravitate towards that kind of divine sort of thing.
Yeah, that's nice when, at the time that Nova looks through the telescope, Noah doesn't know that she's a smarter human that can speak.
Yeah, exactly.
He thinks that she's just like a feral human.
Right.
So when she reacts as a human would looking through a telescope, he says to Raka, she behaves, she reacts as an ape would.
Yeah, we'll come back to that because I really like that stuff. But yeah, Proximus, he's the villain. He doesn't want his species returning to the cages.
Yeah.
And his flaw is that he's willing to do that at the cost of every other ape. Yes. And that he is clearly a power-mad nutter. But yeah, again, that's one of the great things about this franchise is the villains are relatable, and that's good. I like that apes call all humans, or all human women anyway, Nova.
Yeah.
I like that detail a lot, because if you watch the original Planet of the Apes, the female character in that is called Nova. I like the nice little inversions, like apes being unable to stomach human stench.
Yes.
And just having a generally kind of patronising attitude towards us.
Yeah.
When she looks through the telescope. Yeah, he tells Raka with gravitas she reacted as an ape would. Yeah. And I like, her screaming Noah is kind of the big reveal to the audience that she can speak. I felt like that was a nice callback to Rise. We talked about that. That's not something you picked up on, but I don't know whether that's just me or whether that's something that the general audience would get.
Well, what's interesting about that is I haven't heard that point made anywhere else. Maybe it has, and I just haven't seen it, but...
No, I haven't either, but...
You're the first person that said that to me, where Noah is supposed to mirror Caesar's no.
Yeah, the big moment in Rise is Caesar's first word. It's no! And then the big reveal that humans are speaking in this one is Noah! It's like... To me, it was an obvious callback, but again, I could be wrong. And it doesn't have the punch of Caesar, obviously. No. But still, it was nice.
I think like, before she speaks, you kind of guess that she is going to.
Yeah, but still, a good moment. The music, with a different composer than the, what should we call them now? Not the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
What's we refer to them as? It's not, because it's not the original trilogy.
The Circus trilogy.
Trilogy.
That's all you can.
The Caesar trilogy.
Yeah, the Caesar
trilogy.
Yeah.
It's a different composer now, but it felt like a descendant of the Michael Giacchino score from that trilogy. The film, for me, was at its best when it was just the three of them in the wild.
Which happened, there was a lot more of that than I thought there'd be.
Same. Like, for me, generally speaking, the fewer the apes, the better. Not to say the other stuff isn't good, but when it's like an army of apes, it loses a bit of its something for me.
Well, the film never really seems to know what to do when it's got an army of apes.
No.
It often tries to filter it back down to just like a couple of them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about this franchise as well, even though it's about these big things and big themes and it's post-apocalypse. It's quite restrained. It's quite conservative for a modern blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I love about the Apes films is that they're in their own little bubble. Like, nothing else gets into them.
Yeah.
No wokeness, none of that gets in.
Yeah, like the politics in it, they feel fairly well considered.
Well, this is the thing, considering the franchise has political origins, because it's based on a novel that's kind of, about race and all that sort of thing, as an allegory, and many of the films follow that as well. The newer iterations, these reboots, they've basically remained apolitical, or whatever politics they do have is agreeable and invisible, fundamentally. There's obviously the human versus ape dimension, right? There's also the freedom of clans versus imperialism that this film does. It's political in that sense, but that's great. Even in things I otherwise like The Good Wife or Evil, there are some eye roll moments with its politics. Never with Apes.
No.
And the film doesn't have a message so much as it has some more complicated than is necessary for a mainstream blockbuster ideas.
Yeah.
So, like most films now, it's too long, I think.
Yeah.
But the fat was in the first act, which is unusual these days.
Yeah.
It needed to get going just a little bit quicker. The Apes franchise has an epic quality, and even though there are still B-movie elements, this didn't need to be an hour and a half. Because we usually say hour and a half. It didn't need to be that short, but closer to 2 hours, yes. It retreads some of the same ideas as the earlier films.
Yeah, there's a lot of war in this, I thought. Yeah, this kind of, in places, this feels like War for the Planet of the Apes Part 2.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not set in the snow, but their journey from their camp to where all of the apes are being held in captivity, a lot of that feels very reminiscent.
Aesthetically, like a big vault kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have the emotional weight of the Caesar trilogy, but a lot of that was Serkis, his performance.
Yeah.
That said, a lot of the heavier duty drama in that trilogy does come after Rise. You know, Dawn and War very much the kind of the powerhouses of those. For me, this was on a par with Rise, I would say. Maybe even a little bit better. Okay. It's not as good as Dawn. It's not as good as War.
No.
But it's not significantly worse. What it does have is strong storytelling, clear motivations, and nice dollop of complexity. It's more than a worthy successor, I think.
Yeah, which is really nice. That it doesn't feel like it's like, oh god, they're going to milk this now. It doesn't feel like that at all.
No.
A lot of it does feel like it feels quite natural for this to be the next chapter. It does look like in future films they're going to sort of bring back the humans versus apes element.
Yeah, that's where it's all, I mean, if it's going anywhere, that is where it's going. I mean, the thing with, like, you can end it with war, like, that is its own ending.
Yeah.
But if you're going to continue, it's one of those things, like, I'm not bothered by it. There are very few franchises out there, but this is one of them where, just keep, as long as they're good, keep making them. I've got no problem with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this one ends with a big kind of humans around the globe connecting with each other, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I'm on the strength of this, I'm confident.
Yeah. I mean, if the next two films are kind of handled with the same care that this one was handled with, then I think we'll be fine. Because there are things about this that I do hope don't get ruined in later films. Mm-hmm. For example, I really like the fact that Noah, he's just an ape.
Yeah.
He's not special.
Yeah,
he's the son of the tribe elder, but that doesn't even really seem to play into the plot at all. He's not related to Caesar. It's not prophesized that he's going to be the savior of his kind.
Yeah.
He's just a guy that like, he got knocked out.
Yeah, he's not Neo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got knocked out when everyone was being kidnapped, so they didn't take him along. That's the only reason he's there to save them.
I quite like that, actually, because it's not Neo, it's Noah. It's like saying no to Neo.
Oh, right.
It's not Neo. But yeah, no, here's the thing. If he does remain the central character, of which he probably will, then I think just the impulse of a storyteller is that he is endowed with more significance. You know, I think that's probably the way it will go. I don't want to see him become an ape king or anything like that, or an ape philosopher.
Well, he seems to reject that, doesn't he? Because, like, when Raka dies, he passes along the symbol of Caesar. He says that, I was the last one, but now you're going to carry Caesar's word with you.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he gives it to the human. It's like he's rejecting, like, the past, like, the kind of the legacy that the apes had. It's like, well, I'm just going to look after my people now. Yeah. That's all I really care about.
And, like, maybe he won't come back. Who knows, you know? Yeah. Maybe the fact that he's not been made particularly distinguishable is because it was only planned for him to be in this. Yeah. But he probably will be back. And I love the ending where, him and the human are talking and they've had this kind of friendship bond kind of thing. And, like, she's just kind of got her hand on her gun ready to kill him in case he comes. Yeah. It's like, good. There's nuance there. Yeah. And again, it's not a great nuance, but it's more than a film like this demands.
Well, it's nice because as these films are focused more on the apes, there's an inbuilt challenge to that. And that is that these apes, they can speak. Yeah. But they're not eloquent. And their kind of understanding of the world really calls for things like metaphor and like interesting dialogue. It's all very functional with the apes, the way they speak. Yeah. So the film kind of has to rely more on visual storytelling than its dialogue. And I think this film shows that they are doing that well at this point. Like you said, just the fact that the camera pans across and you can see the gun behind her back. Mm-hmm. That's the way that they show that she's kind of like, she's not sure of nowhere and she doesn't know how this is all going to play out. Yeah. And there's other moments in the film as well where it kind of plays out in the body language and the staging of a shot rather than the characters kind of saying what they feel. Yes, and we already said the villain kind of has a point in his own way. But outside of that, I like that Noah is the protagonist. Obviously, as humans, we are going to empathise with a human. Yeah. That's, good, not William H. Macy. No. And so I like when she kind of detonates the vault and destroys everything. It's like, you cannot have this. I like Noah, but
I'm with her, right? Like, I'm definitely with her because, yeah, I'm sorry, but Ape, you cannot have military-grade weaponry.
No,
I cannot allow that.
Well, Proximus certainly can't.
Proximus certainly can't, yeah.
Yeah.
But, doing that, she's kind of essentially killing all these apes. And yeah, I like them, but yeah, it is. It's more complicated than it needs to be, and I like that a lot about it. Yeah, I think going forward, if they can manage to, because if he's back, he will be given greater significance. To do that naturally as a result of the preceding films, rather than just, it's because we're focusing on him, because it was always going to lead to him becoming Ape Emperor, then I'm fine with it, if they do it more naturally. But if he comes back, yes, don't expect him to just be an ape.
I suppose, but also...
He's called Noah.
He is called Noah. Yeah. But really, his significance should come from, as you say, what came before.
Yes.
And the relationship that he has with the characters. Yeah.
If the events of Kingdom feed into the next one in terms of his role, I'm all for it. Yeah, if it transpires that, there's a prophecy that there will be an ape prophet who will bring peace to the promised land. No.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Yeah, because we had that with Caesar. Caesar was a chosen one figure.
And that's why I like that he looms so large. The kind of the prologue, we see his funeral, essentially. He's very much in the film.
Yeah.
It's not like, we had those first three, brush them off now. No, what happened in those is important.
Yes. And the fact that no one remembers those films 300 years later is also important.
Yes, and his importance in the film suggests to me that they know that he was kind of a singular figure, and they're not going to do a religious, messiah character again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. In the meantime, it's very good.
Yeah, I would agree.
The Bikeriders. You've actually watched this one.
I've actually watched this one.
Yes.
Yeah, Sam said, you don't have to watch The Bikeriders for this. So I didn't. But then...
We kept not recording.
So I was like, I wonder...
You attached a supernatural meaning
to it.
I
wonder. So I watched The Bikeriders last night, and lo and behold, we're recording today.
To be fair, we said we were going to record today before yesterday.
Yeah, but we said that
I know,
before as well, and it ended up getting rescheduled.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's like a miracle. Like, we were never planning to record today.
Okay.
And then you watched it last night, and I was like, hey, Jord, let's record. There is no God. Right, The Bikeriders. So, basically, kind of a love letter to the outlaw biker lifestyle of the 60s. Like, that'll do you. That'll tide you over for the plot, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's that.
Ooh, motorbikes. That's the plot.
Basically, yeah. So, it reminded me of a lot of other things, all of which are better.
Okay.
So, it has the period and the subject of Easy Rider, which itself isn't the most accomplished film, but it's undeniably a cultural landmark. It helped give birth to New Hollywood. That, The Graduate, and Bonnie and Clyde, right? It has a narrative frame and 60s soundtrack of a Scorsese gangster film, most notably Goodfellas. Jodie Comer's Kathy in this is very much the biker Karen Hill, but it lacks the punch of Scorsese's work. The accent is Fargo adjacent. Austin Butler is the James Dean facsimile. Much of the film rests on his rugged, all-American handsomeness, but he lacks the innate cool of James Dean because he thinks he's cool, and everyone around him thinks he's cool. I liked him in Dune 2, but he's a pound shop Ryan Gosling for me right now. And that reminded me of The Place Beyond the Pines, another superior film. Its relaxed, meandering nature reminded me of Dazed and Confused. There's obvious overlap in terms of a soundtrack-heavy nostalgia for a yesterday summer, but there's also a large cast, a lot of hanging around, drinking, smoking weed, and chatting about things of little consequence. All those things are better than The Bikeriders.
Yeah, Scorsese's the big one that I noticed.
Yeah.
It's kind of trying to it's trying to get that Scorsese momentum.
The flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and kind of a voiceover saying, and then this in 1962, fucking but with Fargo accent.
Yeah, with like music kind of carrying you into the next scene.
The Stones and the Beatles, and not so much, I guess this is more, I can't remember the soundtrack, but it's probably like Creedence and
well, it's just like biker music. It's kind of like that Southern rock.
Right.
Southern 60s Southern rock kind of vibe to it. But you're kind of right though, because like with Scorsese films, they will rip through years of a character's life, but all of the set pieces and all of the major plot beats, they always have like suitable punctuation to them.
Yeah.
Whereas Bikeriders, for me, it just kind of felt like one big run-on sentence.
Yeah.
It mirrored Jodie Comer, like the fact that like the entire film, she's like, and then, I met him and he brought me home and then we got married 5 years later. And
yeah, again, it's like Goodfellas, because Goodfellas, obviously, you have Henry Hill's narration, and then as the film proceeds, you start to get Karen Hill's kind of supplementary narration. This has kind of gone in a very 2024 way. What if we foreground the kind of female narrator? And yeah, the thing with Goodfellas is it has characters and scenes that pop and brilliant dialogue and just a world. I mean, this kind of, it felt like the 60s as far as I can tell, but yeah, it's all just going and then. Like I said, Dazed and Confused is the point of comparison, but the point of Dazed and Confused, it's the last day of term before summer, and it's the 70s, and everyone goes to this area to drink and get high and make out, and and it is a deliberately meandering, nothing really happens, but oh god, I feel nostalgic even though I was never there kind of film.
Yeah.
It's going for that, but I just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's a case of like someone who would really like this film, if I would say to them, I didn't really connect with it, they'd go, oh well, it's because you don't like bikes, you don't like that kind of...
Yeah, it's not that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was the film's chance to make me care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are films out there, whether they're documentaries or just films, where I've had no interest in the subject matter going in.
I don't care about Facebook, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and yet the social network. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so a film for which you do not have a relationship with the source material, that's not necessarily a disadvantage for the film.
No.
Because it can be the thing that gets you into that.
And the thing is about this, I can't imagine anyone liking the bike ride. Like, anything they liked about it, there's a film they will like more for the same reason.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer anything, it doesn't do anything better than anything else in the same ballpark. Jodie Comer is a chameleon and a master of accents, right? And she's kind of the thing that's been singled out as the best thing about the film.
Yeah.
I find it quite a hammy performance, personally.
Well, it's very... Is loud the right word?
Well, it's that kind of like,
colourful, maybe.
Well, it's sort of like common, brash woman sort of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's...
Opinionated, like an Italian-American, like, hey, Vinny, get the fuck over here.
Yeah.
It's that sort of...
Move these bikes out of my yard. Like that kind of...
It's that sort of thing. She's a sassy dame.
Yeah. But it's an accent that grabs your attention. So yeah, I can see what you mean about like the performance. But it's the acting, the tone of the acting in this film was strange for me.
Okay.
Tom Hardy's accent is as strange as it's ever been.
Yeah.
He's one of his stranger accents.
Yeah.
Austin Butler, never says anything at all.
No, he's doing the Ryan Gosling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when he sits outside Jodie Comer's house and the boyfriend's like, oh, fuck this, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And he walks up to the front door and he's like, do you want to come on my bike? And she's like, I married him 5 years later. I was like, why?
Well,
he didn't do anything.
Look, we're not women.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Kind of James Dean. James Dean is exactly the kind of person I wouldn't find cool, because he is the definition of cool according to everybody in culturally. That's what he is.
Yeah.
But James Dean is cool. Ryan Gosling earlier was cool. I don't find Austin Butler cool. Yeah. And that's because he knows it.
Yeah, I did feel like the film was trying to make me think he was cool.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it's a nice construction where he parks outside this girl he fancies house, says nothing, does nothing, just stands there smoking, and the boyfriend just gets so kind of tired and intimidated by him that he just leaves. Yeah. It's like, oh, he achieved that without saying a word. Like, that's badass. I like that as a construction, but I just don't like Austin Butler. And that's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's odd that it exists now in 2024, right? It's a throwback, not just in terms of its period setting, but there's something that was distinctly 2010s about it for me. Okay. Down to the Tom Hardy of the thing. It feels like a while since I've seen Tom Hardy, and I'm already quite sick of him. Right. Tom Hardy burned brightly and quickly for me. Okay. It's Warrior, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Bronson, the very early things that he became famous for. The Dark Knight Rises, that was kind of like the peak then. It's like, oh, he's achieved. And since then, it's just been a kind of a downward spiral for me. Right. He just does the same thing all the time. It's not interesting. But yeah, I don't know, there's just something about it that's kind of early 10s indie. In that place beyond the Pines Way. it's such kind of a small film, really.
Yeah.
And the director, he's just made it's like a step down for him.
Okay.
So bikers are a part of American mythology, right? Like hobos. The spirit of that didn't come through for me at all. Some work has to be done to get me there in the first place. I suspect the same with you. I can understand the thrill and danger of motorcycling, but it's always the brothers in arms component that alienates me. In a war, yes, important.
Yeah.
But getting beaten to a pulp rather than taking off your colours is ridiculous. And will always be ridiculous to me.
A couple of things like that just kind of left me going, I don't really understand what's happening.
Well, that's Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
That's what that show is.
Right.
It's bad. But so my kind of final point really is, okay, so it's a great cast that isn't well utilised.
Yeah.
It's peculiarly lightweight. It's about the degeneration of the club from a pure hobbyist collective to drugs and violence, which leads to the final comparison. Sons of Anarchy is far, far from perfect and downright annoying at times. But everything you get out of the Bikeriders, you could get out of just the backstory of Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
And if you're into bikes, you'll get 7 seasons worth of bikes
in
Sons of Anarchy. But there's a lot of that in Sons of Anarchy. Obviously, it's about like masculine brotherhood and all that.
Yeah.
But it's like if you betray the club and they find out he's still got a tattoo and they burn it off him in this big ceremony, it's like, how fucking dare you still have the tattoo? And I'm just like, that's the part of the show where I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't like clubs like that. I don't, like I said, in a war, it's your brother. It's important.
Yeah.
Not riding a bike.
Well, like, I can't remember who Tom Hardy speaks to earlier in the film, but he sees that, is it the Marlon Brando film?
Oh, when he's on the motorbike film.
Yeah, the motorbike film on the TV. And he's like, okay, that's going to be my entire life now.
Yeah.
And he speaks to it, because he races motorbikes with someone. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, why would you be in a motorcycle gang? They just talk about bikes all day.
Right.
And Tom Hardy's like, well, that's what we do.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but we race them. Mm-hmm. They just talk about bikes all day. And then when they're in the club, all they do is talk about bikes.
Yeah.
It just seems, it seems so... Like, in a biker film, you want to see them riding the bikes. Because there's that moment early on, isn't it, when Jodie Comer is on the back of Austin Butler's motorbike, and the entire club comes riding past her.
Yeah. And
she says, oh, I'll be honest, it took my breath away to have that spectacle.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's kind of it in terms of, like, I guess there's a high-speed chase with Austin Butler at one point.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, when Austin Butler gets beaten up, Tom Hardy, like, burns down, or he tells the club to burn down the bar that he was beat up in. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, it's going to be like a crime gang kind of thing, where it's like, they become more delinquent and they start breaking the law and everything. But then at the end, when Tom Hardy gets, spoilers, when he gets shot by the guy that he wouldn't let into the club.
Yeah.
And then you find out the club is now running drugs and everything. It's treated as like this big tragedy. Well, she says, like, with the death of Tom Hardy, that was kind of the end of the golden age of bikers.
Yeah.
And I was like, really?
Yeah, it's got one foot in the nostalgia of, just like the 60s hippie thing almost, adjacent, of just smoking weed and talking shit. And then one foot in, like, this narrative of, it started with pure intentions and then became a drug. Which, again, that's what Sons of Anarchy is. The thrust of Sons of Anarchy is, it's set in modern day, and you've got the president of the club and the vice president. The vice president is a young man who is the son of the founder of the club. And he discovers a manuscript his father wrote that was the ethos of the club. And it's this hippie collective, basically. It's free love, Vietnam and all that kind of stuff. It's about, we're united and we're brothers. And now it's just become, a drugs trafficking operation.
Yeah.
And he wants to return it to the roots that his father established, but is corrupted along the way in a very Shakespearean, tragic, right? I was like, that's what the film's going to do, right? I mean, I've seen a few biker things since Sons of Anarchy, and they all do that.
Okay.
Really. It's always about that. How the kind of the liberated spirit is hijacked by greed, and I mean, that's what gangster crime films are, I guess.
I was going to say, is there any other film that could be made starring bikers?
Well, I'd like to see someone try. I mean, you've got The Place Beyond the Pines, which... It's not a biker film in that sense, but bikes feature quite prominently. Ryan Gosling is a biker, and then his son kind of finds out about him and tries to inherit that sort of mantle. That's a good film.
Okay.
And that's a kind of cross-generational, takes place over 20 years maybe. A lot of biking in that. Much better bike chase than there is in the Bikeriders. Because he's a bank robber in Place Beyond the Pines.
Right.
You've seen it, right?
I don't remember it.
You don't remember? A long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a good film, Place Beyond the Pines. Watch that instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I watched this.
This to the audience.
Oh, right, I see. Okay. Yeah, it's too late for me, audience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we do it, so they don't...
Yeah, well, it's not like a bad film. It's not like, stay away from it.
it's bland.
It's bland, yeah.
And it's weird, considering what it's about and the director, it's weird that it's bland.
Okay.
But it is bland. Yeah, you're not going to get anything out of it. I really don't think most people are going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
Season 3 of The Bear.
This is weird, because we've talked about season 1 incredibly briefly.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about season 2.
No.
It showed up in my top 10 last year.
Yeah.
We didn't actually do a review of it.
No.
So this is technically the first proper review we're doing.
I suppose so. Well, that's why the whole system had to change. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I know everyone says it's not a comedy. That's just... right. That's a cliche now into itself, right? But to consider it one at this point is just an absurdity.
I really love the idea of them playing...
the show reel.
Like, the first episode of season 3. When it's, like, best comedy, The Bear, and it's, like, this, like, melancholic art film.
Yeah. But on balance, it might be one of the least comical shows on television.
In what respect? Because there's comedy in there.
Least funny. I mean, I'm not like slamming it. I'm not saying, it's trying to make me laugh and it's failing.
Yeah.
I just it's not even going for it most of the time. You know, it's
well, this season in particular, it seems to be the most kind of is self-reflective the correct words?
I don't know what you mean yet.
Okay,
so
the first season did kind of feel like you could call it a comedy.
Just about.
It's got this kind of mad raw energy to it. It's a very colloquial show with very, as you put, the millennial characters. And as the show has gone on, it's weird. It's kind of mirrored the location itself. Because in the first season, it's that like rundown sandwich shop in Chicago, and it feels very Chicagoan. And kind of like everyone's, like
Chicagoan.
Chicagoan.
Yeah, very frantic.
Frantic.
Well, it's before the show had been discovered.
Yeah. And then season 2 comes along and they're tearing down that shop and turning it into a restaurant. And it does feel like this period of transition is happening in every respect. Like the first half of the season, you're spending more time with the side characters. And then you've got that big family dinner episode where you kind of like spending more time with like the family. And now in the third season, now that it is a fancy restaurant, it's very clean, it's very sterile. The show's starting to feel very clean and sterile now.
It's an interesting way of conceptualizing the development. I view it through the lens of it's a reflection of its prestige as it's gone on. But we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Right? So I genuinely wonder whether award shows will have to undergo changes as a result of things like this. I'm pretty confident that a half-hour drama, they are rare, to be fair, but has never been nominated for Best Drama Series.
Okay.
Hour-long shows have made it into comedy, but it seems that half hour is considered the sole preserve of comedy, right?
Yeah.
So the not outcry, but audible laughter at the Bear being submitted in the comedy categories and winning in the comedy categories, it might be too overwhelming for them to ignore now.
Yeah.
Or they'll just make jokes about it at forthcoming ceremonies. I feel like I've seen that before at the Emmys. They've gone, there's been a blistering drama and human emotion, and that's the comedy category, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, the look and feel of it is very American indie. The characters talk in an American indie way. They say like a lot. And I know we do too. There's only so much you can do about your generation, your region, and your social class. But I hate it. I wouldn't create characters that speak that way. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's not inaccurate. It's capturing millennials with a verisimilitude. But that just means they communicate in a very irritating fashion to me. It's not my jam. So there's always a bit of distance between me and the show, or the feeling of the show. If not in this arena, of course I can understand striving for perfection and wanting to be the best at something. The show isn't much diminished by it, but I just cannot wrap my head around the aggression and stress and mania for food. And let's face it, pretentious food. Addressing each other as chef like they're in the army or something.
Yeah.
It's not Normandy, it's dinner. You know what I mean? Not much really happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the season that I enjoyed the least of The Bear. It's going to be the first season
Yeah.
that's not going to feature in my top 10. I already know this.
It's already not in the top 10.
It's already not in the top 10 for me. And that's even if you split TV and film.
Yeah, I gotta say, already this year, it's shaping up. It's a good year.
There's some good stuff.
There are things in my top 10, certainly for film, I haven't looked at TV as much, that I'd be happy with that. I'm good to go with film, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be, it's gonna be killing darlings by the end of the year.
Yeah.
When things have to be kicked out. Anyway.
But I don't feel like The Bear tumbling in through the rankings is a reflection of the quality of the year. It's also a reflection of the quality of the show.
Yes, it's not as good as the first two seasons.
Well, it's lost. One of the things I really liked about The Bear was its momentum.
Yeah.
Like the kind of the opening riff to New Noise is such a perfect anthem for that first season.
Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Punk and constant tension building.
Yeah.
And teasing you with, because I think it's like season 2 before they actually go into the song proper.
Yeah.
But then but this season, it's just like there's a few episodes where it's just like characters getting ready to start their day, and that's the whole episode.
Yeah.
It gives you you get one episode where it's set over the course of a month at dinner service, and everyone is getting more and more frustrated, and the kind of systems that they've set in place are collapsing. You've got the episode where Sugar goes into labor, and then the rest of them, they're all character piece episodes, or they're kind of character collection piece episodes.
Yes.
Like I said, I think there is an episode where it's literally just everyone's waking up for the day. Mm-hmm. And it's just cutting between different characters as they get ready to go to work.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to that point.
Okay.
Because there's something to be said there. Yeah, I just don't remember it being this sparse.
No.
So, it feels to me, the comparison was the third season of Atlanta.
Okay.
So kind of half-baked, undercooked, all those things. Less filling than its predecessors. It was shot back-to-back with season 4.
Okay.
And it does have the energy of a first-parter. Not in setting up things that require resolution.
Well, it does end with a to be continued as well.
It does, but much the languor.
Yeah.
It's waiting for things to happen. On performance front, Jeremy Allen White remains good.
Yeah.
Ayo Edebiri is perfectly fine, but the award sweep does elude me. It's the strength of the show.
Well, I really don't like that character. And I think I'm supposed to like that character.
Oh, you are, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a failing of the show, whether that's a failing of me. Well, I really don't like her.
Well, it's both our failings if that's... It's just not an awards-worthy performance.
It's not just the performance. The performance is it's fine.
Yeah.
Because especially in this season, it feels like she always has the same energy in a scene. Mm-hmm. Like Kami will say to her, "Oh yeah, we're completely changing the menu," and she's always kind of goes, "Okay." So...
Yeah, she's always the same.
Yeah.
She's always the same. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, who the fuck is she?
Right.
Kami is this Michelin star chef.
Are you saying she's uppity?
I'm saying that she's because they keep trying, the whole season, they're saying to her, sign the partner agreement.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, we want you to part own this restaurant.
Yeah.
Please sign the thing. And she's always like, oh, yeah, I'll do it eventually. All of it's waiting on her.
Yeah.
It's
she?
You are...
Is she?
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah. You're worthy of being at the top of the pile. But it's she doesn't want that. It's who are you to...
Yeah.
To be in this position and be
and be casual about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ebon Moss-Bachrach remains a standout.
I do like him. And I'm happy that I still like him going into this season, because Forks is the name of the episode, right?
Yeah.
It's the second season, where he kind of has his sort of big character moment.
Yeah, that's his episode.
Yeah, where he kind of cleans himself up. And they continue, he sort of maintains that through this season. And it's nice that... Well, just that character is still likable. That character is kind of... he's staying straight edge. He's staying true to himself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like the character is, in stasis.
Yeah, I agree. And, see, the thing is, the first season, I watched, enjoyed, and recommended to you guys. The second season, I watched with less attention. This one's kind of the one I paid most attention to because of the podcast. And so I don't really remember her in previous seasons. But I thought Abby Elliott was the MVP of this season for me. His sister.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar, you said her name was?
Yeah, Sugar, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's become more and more prominent with each season.
Yeah.
Because I think they've also realised, she's actually pretty good.
She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the first episode a lot.
Okay.
Especially the music.
I think it's an interesting strategy to open the season with that episode.
Yeah. Well, it's a moody tone poem, basically.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Considering that the reputation of the Bear... at that point is certainly this is a frantic show.
Well, this is the thing. I am not really a fan of the bear. I wouldn't call myself a fan of it. So yes, I don't like it in the context of the bear. I just liked it as a bit of film. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
The music and the atmosphere of it felt very late 90s. To me, it evoked Thomas Newman's scores for things like American Beauty and Road to Perdition, bands like 07, films like Magnolia. Napkins has been singled out as a quality episode.
Is that Tina's episode?
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, it made me not as much as Ebon Moss-Bachrach.
Yeah.
But it made me like a character that I didn't really think of anything. I've
got to confess, it didn't do a lot for me until the dialogue scene with John Bernthal. Yeah. That I liked a lot. Ice Chips has also been singled out.
The labour, which goes into labour, yeah.
And that's understandable. I sniff an Emmy or two there.
Yeah.
In the comedy category. But no, yeah, that to me was the best episode of the season. I thought they were just great.
Yeah.
Great two-hander. And just the close-ups, the whole thing done in close-ups. Just like, yeah.
It's nice as well because it's not just another person giving birth episode.
Yeah.
You don't see the birth.
No.
It's all like the labour.
It's labour. Yeah, dealing with the stress of the labour.
Yeah, and two characters that have never really spent time together on screen and have like a tense relationship, forcing them into a room together.
And they feel like a mother and daughter.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
So, circling back to the earlier point, it behaves like a show that's been well reviewed, which is to say that it has an adoration for and fascination with its supporting players.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I care a little about some of them and not at all about others.
Yep.
So that's a mixed bag. And there are all these character-centric episodes in that very prestige TV drama way that's become a cliche unto itself. And there are still loads of guest stars. So yeah, shows like Master of None, Rami, You're the Worst. I remember seeing an episode of You're the Worst, it must have been like 2017, something like that, where the best friend character gets his episode. And at that time, it was like, oh, we don't really see this kind of thing on TV. But since then, it's become a staple of well-reviewed, kind of indie-ish American shows.
Okay.
And I'm kind of sick of it now.
Right.
Because it's always presented as, didn't think you were getting this, did you? Like, no, but I don't care.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so it also behaves like a show where the creator has full control. Again, like Atlanta, or like Mr. Robot. If those showrunners didn't have carte blanche, it certainly feels like they did.
Okay.
The first seasons of those shows uber praised, so they were allowed to just run with things. Now, it's difficult to know how much control the Kings, Robert and Michelle King, exercise over their projects because they write procedurals with varying flavours. If there's no particular creative compromise on their part, they have even more of my respect because their shows don't feel indulgent. They feel like balanced collaborations across multiple departments. As artistically balanced as, say, Breaking Bad is, it doesn't feel like the work of an auteur. Every episode pretty much runs the same length. You can't discern Vince Gilligan in the mix. It has discipline, and it puts the story first, it puts the characters first. You don't feel the creative spearhead in the same way you do with the other shows I mentioned. Not even with Better Call Saul, which was a lot more flexible in its runtime.
Yeah.
In university, one of my lecturers said to all of us, your art can wait, your craft comes first. Now, shows like Breaking Bad or The Good Wife or The Americans are perfect examples of striking that balance. For most of the finest writers, art and craft are indistinguishable because their taste is economical, efficient, non-indulgent storytelling. We've said it 1,000 times before, but I will always advocate for the artist's vision. But that will produce mixed results, be it Quentin Tarantino on one hand, Paul Thomas Anderson on the other, and The Bear and Mr. Robot in television. It's good, you know? One of the best shows evs? No.
I wouldn't say that after this season.
No.
After the first two, maybe. Like, I would say that it's got the makings of one of the best shows ever. I think it's got some work to do now to kind of get back to where it was when the second season ended.
Well, hopefully, I mean, because it'll probably go for as long as they wanted to now. But it got renewed for seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So maybe they thought, oh, okay, we can kind of relax a bit with season 3. And then do kind of heavier duty stuff in season 4. But yeah, it was a perfectly okay season of television. But it's resting on its laurels, I think, a little bit.
Definitely.
And it needs to be a bit more disciplined. And kind of, yes, we like the characters, but that doesn't mean that we just want to kind of wallow and spend a day with them.
Yeah.
We want them to be doing stuff. Yeah. Move it along, you know. That's kind of it.
Well, that's what the best episodes in the season do. Like, those, for me, the 3 episodes that I liked the most were I can't remember the name of it, but the episode where it's set over the course of a month.
Yeah.
Which is just dinner service. Tina's episode and the pregnancy episode. And in all of those cases, things are happening.
Yeah.
Like in Tina's episode, even though it's all backstory and it's not propelling the main narrative forwards, it's adding a lot of context, which it richens the text. Because you realise, there's a connection that she had to John Bernthal that we weren't aware of before.
Yeah.
Like before, Tina just felt like someone who worked there. Now she feels important.
Yeah.
And obviously with Sugar, like the whole season was building up to her giving birth.
Yeah.
Like the pregnancy was just like a big factor all the way through. And then, yeah, like I said, the dinner service episode was frantic. It felt like the bear.
Yes.
Like as you'd expect it to be. But a lot of the other episodes, they didn't really do anything. They didn't add any extra context. They didn't propel the narrative forward. They were just kind of there.
Yeah. Well, it's very indie. It's very shoegazy. It's like, it's shoegazing. It's just kind of meandering.
Yeah.
I think that's a theme this episode, Things are just kind of mope about a little bit. And you just want to go, come on, crack on with it.
Yeah.
But, it's fine. It was fine. It just needs to be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. So, a return to the franchise after, I think, 30 years. Yeah, 1994 was the last one. It's okay. Right?
Yeah? You seemed like, when you recommended this to me, you said that you felt more positively about it than a lot of other people, it seems.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
So, should we set up the plot? Is that necessary?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Well, what is Beverly Hills Cop? It's an 80s film about Eddie Murphy plays Axel Foley, a Detroit cop who's, from the streets.
Yeah.
Who goes to Beverly Hills to investigate a crime off duty, essentially. And the whole thing of the film is this street black cop going to this rich white, area of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And kind of the culture clash of that. I rewatched the first one recently again, and it's just funny to see, like, there are points where, he arrives in Beverly Hills and there are just two guys walking down the road in, like, fairly outlandish, they're clearly gay, like, garish outfits. And he just looks at them and he just laughs.
Right.
And then there's no joke, he just goes, in that Eddie Murphy way. And it's like, I like this guy. he finds the whole thing ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he kind of befriends these guys there and blah. And then the sequel sort of did the same thing. This does the same thing, really, but now it's 40 years later after the first one.
Yeah.
And, so what's the plot? You have to remind me, actually. I barely remember the plot.
Yeah, I don't know if I wrote the plot down. Well, it's just like it's a cop film plot. He solves a crime. He goes to Beverly Hills because his partner or his friend...
Billy gets kidnapped.
Yeah, Billy gets kidnapped.
Billy Rosewood gets kidnapped.
Yes. So he goes to find Billy, and he ends up teaming up with his daughter, who is a strange daughter.
Yes, who lives in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, she's a lawyer in Beverly Hills. And it's a buddy cop film, but the buddy is his daughter.
Father and daughter, yes. Well, it's better than its predecessors would suggest. And by predecessors, I don't mean the earlier Beverly Hills Cops films. I mean revivals of other franchises, of old franchises.
Yeah.
There are some amusing moments, none that I can remember being outright funny. And they make a little dig at 3, which I thought was cheap.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy is more lukewarm now, as an older man. That comes with age, and he does still feel like Axel Foley. He speaks as he did in the 80s, though he does say arbitrary at one point, which I thought was out of character.
Right.
But it's funny, sometimes...
Too fancy a word for a man like him, is it?
Hey, you accused Ado Edibiri of being uppity, so don't be coming at me with that shit.
No, you accused me of accusing Ado Edibiri being uppity.
Now you know how it feels. Now I know how it feels. What? No, it's Axel Foley. He throws nigger around quite a lot. I can't see him saying arbitrary. He an arbitrary nigger. Sometimes, because of his age and, the vocal changes that come with that, it sometimes sounds like he's going to launch into like a Sherman Clump. I'm a Sherman Clump,
Right.
The Nutty Professor. His daughter is fairly bland, but much less irritating than these characters tend to be in these films. She's not necessarily smarter than Foley, but she is less street. Though she does at one point say, "If you had went." I love...
Why are you like?
No,
saying...
this is not a black thing whatsoever.
Oh, they have to speak this way.
No, it's not a black thing. I'm saying if you had a hick, a redneck, and he went, "Yeah, man, this shit's arbitrary." It's not right, is it?
Well, it sounds fine.
Well, it's 'cause that's my performance,
Oh,
that was the power of the performance. No, it sounds like, but it wouldn't. Like, hey, Cletus, what you doing, man? You so arbitrary. It's not right, is it? And she's a lawyer. She's speaking quite eloquently for the whole film. But there's one little moment, just if you had went.
Okay.
I love the costume and makeup choices they always make at the end of these things. So, like, when she and Axel are back on good terms at the end of the film, she no longer has a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp. She wears her hair down and a nice robin egg blue jumper.
Right.
They always do that in these films. At their lowest point, she tells Axel that he's the parent and that their issues are his responsibility. At the end of the film, he owns up to that. And then she says, well, that may be the case, but I'm also an adult now. I got to take my share of the blame. And I like that a lot. Because a lot of people blame their parents their entire lives for their entire lives. And I thought that was a nice message.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it. He's kind of meant to represent the younger generation. He's in his 40s now. Right? But I think that actually says a lot more than it intends to. There's that mandatory moment where the old-fashioned character runs up against modern norms. They do it vaguely a couple of times, but there's one that stands out. Now, I didn't particularly like that moment. However, those moments usually involve cultural sensitivity or pronouns or women being empowered now. In this, Axel tries to emasculate the Gordon-Levitt character by targeting the fact that he used to be a pilot, didn't he? And now he's a beat cop in Beverly Hills, He's just like, oh, so what are you, not in the helicopter anymore? He kind of tries to attack his manhood, basically. And then Gordon-Levitt responds that, well, I'm not going to be threatened by that. I'm not going to go all bent out of shape in a masculine, macho way. And, that's a somewhat preachy, okay boomer moment. But as they go, it's a more unique subject, at least.
Yeah, it could be argued that that's foreshadowing for the final chase.
Yeah.
Where he has to fly the helicopter.
Of course. Which is obviously coming.
And then it's revealed he's never actually flown a helicopter.
Right.
Or he crashed one and he hasn't flown one since.
Yes.
Something like that.
It's Al picking up the gun at the end of Die Hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that.
Of course.
It's that kind. I like that they used a lot of the original songs and music, not shitty covers, all except the main theme. So they do that thing where they flirt with it throughout, which is typical. By all means, hold it back, but use it like Creed did.
At the moment.
Yeah, that gives you goosebumps. Yeah. When they finally do play it in earnest, they do that shitty modern cover remix thing where it's part of some crappy rap track.
Yeah.
And it's that awful auto-tune rap that all sounds exactly the same. I would have genuinely preferred Crazy Frog. I don't know about you.
It would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's weird because the score itself is so 80s.
Yeah, and they play the He It Is On from the original. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an 80s film mimicking what it thinks an 80s score sounds like. It does sound like an 80s score.
Yeah. Well, one of the criticisms that's been levelled at it is, it's kind of cruising on nostalgia. And I didn't find that to be a problem. That is a problem for me a lot in things. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. And it's not avoiding nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I thought the best thing about the film really is that it actually felt like a sequel.
Well, that's actually one of my points here. Why is it called Axel F?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Why not just Beverly Hills Cop 4?
I think it's just because culture has it thinks that's too silly now. It's too immature to do that.
Why?
Because a lot of those films with 2 and 3 at the end of them are terrible and transparent retreads and cynical money grubbing opportunities.
But that's not the number's fault.
That's true.
It would be the same whether there's a subtitle or a number at the end. So why is a because
artistic laziness is the issue, not the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Because Axel F. What does that say about the film? It says nothing about the film.
No, it's not like this is the Axel Foley film, finally. It's like Logan, good use of that.
Yeah.
Right? That's good. It's kind of deconstructing the Wolverine thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was kind of the thing with, it was Rocky 2, 3, 4. And then Rocky 6 felt a bit like, oh god, that is indulgent, isn't it? Rocky 6 is insane.
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
And then he did the same thing with Rambo. It wasn't Rambo 4, it was just Rambo now. It's like taking things more seriously is the idea. I think Christopher Nolan's to blame. Okay. I think we had Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. We were okay with it,
Yeah.
And then you had Batman Begins and then The Dark Knight. Oh, okay, we're taking these things seriously now. We're not going to call it Batman 2.
Right. Well, no, you couldn't call a film Batman Begins 2.
No, I know
that actually doesn't make sense.
But you know what I mean? To be fair, even the Tim Burton ones, it was Batman, then Batman Returns,
Yeah.
I think there's just this thing that 2, 3, 4, it's tacky.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the Dark Knight trilogy, those names have meaning.
Yeah, of course, yes.
With the films they're assigned to.
But, I mean, so would...
Batman does indeed begin in Batman Begins.
Yes.
The Dark Knight is very thematically relevant to the Dark Knight film. And then obviously the Dark Knight rises at the end.
Yes.
Because Batman is at his lowest point and he rises up.
Yes.
But this, it's not like...
No, I agree, it's a bad use of it, but equally...
It'd be like calling a Die Hard film Die Hard John McClane. You know, actually...
Well, they're making a TV series called John McClane, aren't they?
Yeah, but actually thinking about it, Die Hard John McClane is actually a pretty wicked title for a Die Hard film.
Die Hard John McClane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you put a comma instead of a colon. Die Hard John McClane.
Die Hard John McClane.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I love about Die Hard, is that Die Hard's based on a novel, right? That's not
Who'd have thought it?
Yeah, I know. That's not called Die Hard.
Yeah.
It's about a detective in a skyscraper. And then they call the film Die Hard, because that sounds cool. But I love how everyone's completely misinterpreted what that... Die Hard, it's Die Hard action, Die Hard adventure. It's Die Hard. It's not to die in a hard fashion. So, like, Die Harder makes no sense.
Yeah.
Die Hard 2, Die Harder, which is the greatest title of anything ever.
It's pretty great, yeah.
No, you know what the next Die Hard film is called. I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast.
No, I know what the tagline for the next Die Hard film
No, that's what it's called. Because they're all of the titles now are plays on phrases that have die in it.
Right.
Isn't it? So it's, you have to live free or die hard.
Yeah.
A good day to die hard. And the whole thing of the Die Hard franchise is that location keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
They've done Russia now.
Yeah.
So the next thing is space.
Right.
So...
In space, no one can hear you die hard.
That's the title. It's not the tagline.
I thought it was the tagline.
No, that's the title of the film.
The saying is, it's not even a play on a saying that has die in it. Because die is not in the original phrase.
No, I know, but that's how you have to further bastardize it now.
Right, okay.
It has to get further away from meaning anything.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it makes about as much sense as live free or die hard.
But yeah, it's not...
But no, it's not like the definitive Axel Foley film. And I think for years, it was called Beverly Hills Cop 4. It's been in development hell for a long time.
Yeah, given that it's supposed to be an intentional throwback, Beverly Hills Cop 4 feels like the perfect title for it.
My guess would be, because it's a Netflix film, but Netflix just thought, if we call it Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, and it pops up on everyone's homepage, they are more likely to click on it than if it was called Beverly Hills Cop 4. Because the feeling would be, I can't start with 4.
Right.
And because I think the first 3 are on the platform at the moment, aren't they?
I think so, yeah.
But who knows if they always will be. I don't know if they own the rights to them. That's all it is. It just comes down to that. It's on your home screen. Are you liable to click on something that's 4? Or just Beverly Hills Cop Axel F and it's Eddie Murphy? Yeah, I'll give that a go.
Right.
I'm not excusing it. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And it should have been called 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it actually feels like a sequel. It's not purely an excuse to wallow in nostalgia.
Yeah.
It has a plot, and not the most straightforward one either. Like, it's not Byzantine, but it's not simple. You have to pay attention to the plot to know what's going on. Like, they've genuinely tried to make a film that stands on its own with its own story. And it's similar to the first one, but it is its own story. And I thought, well, that's more effort than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it does a good job of showcasing Axel's unique skill set.
Yeah.
That character, he will just walk into the lion's den and pretend he's a member of the Pride.
Yes.
That's how he deals with a situation.
Yes.
People are raiding his best friend's office. He'll just walk in and start tearing up the shelves and go, come on, let's find the thing then.
Yes.
Like, it's such a unique approach for a character in a film like this.
Does he do that in this one?
Yeah.
It's this one, is it? Yeah. Well, because I rewatched, like I said, I rewatched the first one, and there's a great scene. I'm going to drop the N-bomb again in context. I've been doing that quite a lot so far. He's in the hotel. He goes to the hotel in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
He's like, I need a room. And they're like, no, you can't just get a room in this Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm a reporter. I'm here to talk to Michael Jackson. And they kind of get interested. And like, but seriously, we can't give you a room. So he starts causing a scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I guess if I was white and I walked in, but I guess no, they don't give hotel rooms to niggas in Beverly Hills, something like that. And then the man just comes over and is like, sir, we have a room. It's like, yeah, the street smart thing. Like, and he can play on people's impression of him and all these things.
There's a scene in this where he's in the interrogation room and Kevin Bacon, who's in this film, walks in and he's gotten free of his handcuffs and like the vent on the ceiling is loose.
Yeah.
So he goes to he gets up on the table and goes to climb after Axel Foley, who's actually hiding underneath the table.
Yes.
So when Kevin Bacon's standing on the desk, he pulls him over. And he's like, yeah, you've seen too many movies. It's like, oh yeah, great. That's it shows why this character in particular is able to get things done.
Yeah.
He's not just another detective who's like, oh, he can put the pieces together like no one else can. No, he's just bulldozing his way through it.
Yeah, he's just he's just a guy, like a bloke.
Yeah.
Like a guy that shouldn't be a cop, really.
Yeah. And I bring that up because it's not a point that can be credited to Axel F alone. I mean, like, you know, you just gave an example from the first film.
Yeah.
It's like, even within this franchise, there are other examples of this being done and done well. The reason I'm bringing it up here is it's not because Axel F is still able to capture those qualities. It's that Axel F is still able to capture those qualities in 2024.
Sure.
It's the 4th film in a franchise. It's a legacy sequel. The guy who's coming back to the role is like, what was it, like 20, 30 years after the last one? But they've managed to make it feel just like the next sequel.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like time has passed that much.
No, I mean, if you were watching them back to back, it would be a bit too samey with the first one, because, again, they reusing the same songs. It opens in a similar way.
Yeah.
It ends like in a mansion, similar kind of setup.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you could just treat it as
It's just the next one.
It's just the next one, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, for people who are fans of Breaking Bad, etc., Jonathan Banks is the villain henchman in the first one, and he has hair. So, if nothing else, go back and watch that.
Yeah.
No, it's an okay little franchise. The first one's a very good film, and then, but this one's fine. And I thought, well, good on them for putting in some effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Douglas is cancelled.
All right.
Let's dive in, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there's quite a bit to say. I don't know about you. It's a mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's open with that.
Let's open with that. Sometimes impressive, sometimes infuriating. The dialogue is impressive in its way. The pace is energetic. Most of the characters are infuriating.
Yeah, but by design?
Yes. Okay, so what's this about, George?
Okay. There is a newsreader called Douglas, played by Hugh Bonneville. And he does a news show with Karen Gillan, and it's like they're a well-known, well-respected news hosting duo.
Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby.
That kind of energy.
Yeah.
And it comes to the attention of the producers of the news show. Oh, it's Ben something. Who plays him?
Yeah, I'm not sure now.
Yeah. But anyway, there's like a producer character in it.
Ben Miles?
Yeah, Ben Miles sounds right. Yeah. Comes to his attention that a tweet has been made by someone saying that they overheard Douglas saying a misogynist joke at a wedding. And he's like, what was the joke? And Douglas is like, I didn't say a joke. It's like, you must have said a joke. It's like, I really didn't. And then the show is kind of the consequences of that. Initially, the idea or the possibility that he made a sexist joke at the wedding. And then it starts being treated as though that did actually happen, even though they've got no evidence to back it up. And the show kind of unfolds from there.
Yes.
It's only a 4 episodes miniseries, and the episodes absolutely fly by.
They do.
Because of the general pace of those episodes and how much it manages to achieve in quite a short amount of time, which is really nice.
Yeah, because this ITVX, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like 40 minutes, not an hour long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 40 minutes, and it's Moffat like using his time well. So I think, was it Dracula? He did Dracula like a little while ago.
3 episodes.
Yeah, that was only 3 episodes, and that was dragging towards the end.
Okay, I don't remember. I remember quite liking that.
Yeah, there was good stuff in it.
Yeah.
But like towards the end, it was like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Let's wrap this up now.
Yeah.
Not the case with Douglas is cancelled, I thought.
So, I know you meant to be curious about the joke early on, right? And, of course, I was somewhat curious, but more so I just thought, I don't care.
Okay.
I think it would have been interesting if he hadn't said anything. That the whole show would have been built on a foundation of nothing whatsoever. And that wouldn't have been a problem with the show, it's a problem with the world.
Yeah.
Right? There would be something interesting about all this drama being created by nothing at all. That's the world now. Careers are lost and lives are ruined over nothing. So on The Rest is Entertainment, they were talking about Taylor Swift and how she's, the biggest star ever, basically. And they said, but most people don't care about her. They will bring it up to rebut it, to argue against the people who say that, that she's nonetheless impressive. But with a situation like Douglas is cancelled, most people don't care. There's all people.
Yeah.
There are the people who are on Twitter, now X. Then there are the people on Twitter who make noise. As a percentage of mankind, it's negligible.
Yes, but I think within the context of the show, the events of the show, you're obviously going to be paying attention to that noise. It will seem...
I just want to talk about it, in the context of the world.
Yeah.
That nobody cares. Really, in numbers, nobody cares about things like this. But lives are ruined over it.
Yeah.
And just to say that there's good drama in the absurdity and perversity of that.
Yeah.
The title Big Nothing has already been used for a film, but it would be appropriate.
Okay.
But yes, even in this woke age, I think it was understood that a substantial part of the audience, because this is ITVX, it's not Channel 4 or the BBC, wouldn't understand the furore around a joke made in poor taste. So I knew, of course, that it wasn't ultimately going to be about a joke.
Well, I mean, is this a spoiler discussion?
Yeah, it has to be, I think.
Yeah, you can't really talk about this show without spoiling it. Because it's only 4 episodes, but it becomes a different animal halfway through.
It does.
Not in the sense that it feels like you're watching a completely different show from when you started. It does do a good job of making it feel like one cohesive unit. But when you start watching it, it feels like a comedy.
Yes.
And then there are things that happen later in the show which are far less comedic. Well,
going in knowing nothing about it, it was much more of a comedy than I expected. The first half.
Yeah.
Anyway. More comedy than drama. And I enjoyed a lot of that. Some of it was refreshing.
Yeah.
And then it pivots to the singularly dramatic in the second half. I enjoyed that less. A lot of the comedy is wrung out of the characters essentially being caricatures.
Yes.
Especially the lefty ones. So when I'm expected to feel hurt and betrayed on behalf of his daughter, I don't. Because she's otherwise presented as being unbearable.
Yeah.
But it's a decent little ensemble. I even tolerated Nick Mohammed in this.
Yeah, and that's an achievement.
That is an achievement. It's really a show about Madeline in the end, isn't it? That's kind of the irony of the title, is that it's not about Douglas, really.
It's about Karen Gillan's
character. Very, very mixed feelings about Madeline. A lot of people have been frustrated by the show, which I understand. I personally found the 3rd episode increasingly grating.
Okay.
Which is to some extent deliberate, probably. Yeah. But Moffat has his cake and eats it. That's my problem with it. So essentially, there's an episode that revolves around her meeting with Ben Miles' producer before she has the job. It's a flashback.
Yeah.
And he's coming on to her in that kind of casting couch Me Too-y Harvey Weinstein way.
Yeah.
In that meeting with the producer, Madeline is shown to be headstrong, but also uncomfortable and intimidated, which is possible. But the core of the show's drama ends up being the moment when Douglas sees how terrified, quote-unquote, she is and leaves her to it.
Yeah.
And then she suddenly becomes Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very modern portrayal of a woman, isn't it? Or at least it's a portrayal that is very common with
it's
modern
a modern
shows.
portrayal of a woman.
Yeah. These women who are incredibly strong and fierce and independent, but are also victims. And they kind of, like, go back and forth depending on what the plot needs them to be.
Well, that's the thing. Essentially what happens is, he's kind of coming on to her in an increasingly just full-on way.
Yeah.
And like you run a bath and all that kind of thing. And then Douglas knocks on the door. She answers. He sees that she's uncomfortable and like something's going on in there.
Yeah.
And just leaves the situation.
Yeah.
And it kind of breaks your heart.
But like not in a like a malicious way. Just kind of sort of like, oh, I understand what's happening now.
Yeah, I'm gonna back off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not my place to do anything.
Yeah. And then she shuts the door, goes into the bathroom, and completely just dresses this guy down. Not literally.
Yeah. Well, he's already naked.
He's already naked. Yeah. And it's just like, fuck you. You know, you're gonna give me a job now, and I'm gonna make a career for myself, and just complete like yes bitch sort of moment, right?
Yeah.
Would it be so deplorable to the modern feminist if she started out in her career, pre-career really, as vulnerable and pressured onto the casting couch?
Yeah.
And then become a force to be reckoned with after that?
I did think that it kind of lost something. Because, that interview that she conducts, the mock interview she conducts with Douglas, where she kind of extracts from him that he knew that she was in a situation that she wanted to get out of and he left her to it.
Yeah.
And that you kind of find out that the joke he made at the wedding was him alluding to that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says to her, I know that no one overheard me because I'm very careful when I say these things, implying that like he's obviously that he is kind of, he knows what he's doing is wrong. So he's like keeping an eye out to make sure no one catches him. Yes. Which is kind of nice given that at the end of the show, the thing that actually ends his career is the fact that he was overheard saying something deplorable.
Yes.
And he didn't realise it. So, like, that's kind of nice. It has one of those, like, clever little endings where...
Nice little constructions in it throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, towards the end of that situation, it becomes clear to you, the audience, that, oh, okay, Karen Gillan was, I guess, raped. Like, she was...
No, she wasn't raped.
Well, no, but, like, you know, she didn't want to have sex with this guy, but she was kind of manipulated into doing it.
Yeah, she was in an uncomfortable situation where, a guy was trying to pressure her into
Well, no, that's the thing. You think it happened.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right. Yeah.
So
yes. Maybe raped would be too strong.
Reluctantly consented.
Yeah, the casting couch.
Yeah, the casting couch situation. And then it's revealed at the end that didn't happen. She actually managed to overpower him, like, emotionally, and, she
she just got a burst of energy and just reads in the riot act.
Yeah, and took photos of him, so she had kind of blackmail material.
Yeah.
That's how she was able to secure the job. And it did lose its impact a little bit.
Well, it's having its cake and eating it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, it's not even portrayed that dramatically. It's a complete 180 where, like, she becomes boss bitch, what do they call them? Fucking girl boss.
Yeah.
And just, like, storms into the bathroom. It's like, right, okay, now this, like, she's very kind of powerful in that kind of flippant way. It's not like, right, and now, fuck you. It's not presented like that at all.
Yeah.
It's just like a woman who's completely in control. But anyway, so that's one way they could have gone, would be that she was pressured into it and has now become strong and all that sort of thing. It's much more compelling if what Douglas is telling people is true. It's more of a genuine betrayal, right? For one thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I completely understand why Karen Gillan's character feels betrayed.
Yeah.
Because they make a point of showing the fact that he was a childhood hero of hers.
Yes.
So the fact that he basically left her to this situation... Again, not really because he thought it was the right thing. It's just that, this is what happens.
Well, he's being a good German, is what he was.
Yeah.
It's just like, I won't, someone else could, I don't know, it's fine, I'll walk away.
Yeah.
It's bad, but it's a lesser evil than going, all right, Ben Miles, you get in this, son.
Yeah.
It's cowardice.
Yeah.
But yes, if they'd actually gone through with it, it wouldn't have just been a misconception and it would have felt like more of a betrayal on his part. And it's not like if they went that way, it would show that Madeline has flaws. Because I think a young woman desperate to break into the industry that acquiesces to a powerful man's advances would not widely be considered a failure of character. It's a moment of victimization.
Yeah.
But it would show her as human rather than the something close to a superheroine that she ends up being depicted as. Because
that's the thing. The alternative to what we got is not showing it happen.
Yeah.
You could get away with it. She just closes the door and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, like, this should have happened. It just surprised me that they went in that direction.
Yeah.
Douglas does end up getting cancelled. And I don't know whether this is part of, like, whether it's an intentional irony of the show. The fact that Douglas is the only person for whom there are consequences here. Because Ben Miles continues to be the producer of the show. Karen Gillan makes the point that she doesn't want people to know what happened.
Right.
Because she doesn't want it to define her.
Yes.
But a consequence of that is that he's going to get away scot-free with it. But she's made peace with that. And Douglas is fucking rubbish agent that also said something quite deplorable in the clip that gets played, which ends Douglas's career. He's also, like, still in the industry by the looks of it.
It's also, I thought, the Ben Miles thing, thinking back on it now, it's such like an insincere 180 on that character. I know obviously men that do stuff like that don't present as such, but his role in the show initially is the kind of flustered assistant. Yeah, he's his producer, but
he comes across as a very flaccid character.
Yeah, he's like, oh god, what? He's got to run around fixing things.
Yeah,
and then you find out, but yeah, he hired her. But he's like a fucking like Saudi prince all of a sudden. He's like very like forward with it. Like, run a bath, love. You know, it's like I just didn't buy it. Okay. I just didn't buy that was the same guy, you know what I mean? And people would say, oh yeah, but no.
Yeah, I don't know if it could be argued. I don't know if the point is that after that encounter with Madeline, it humbled him. So he's kind of behaving himself more. Like,
maybe.
So when we meet him, like, the consequences of that encounter is like the change.
Maybe.
His behavior.
I mean, it's quite a big show, really. It's very broad. Like, again, the dialogue's very, like, it's very zippy and large.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just found the thing with Moffat lately, because it was the same with this Doctor Who episode, he's having his cake and eating it. There's one more of those instances that I'll come back to.
Okay.
But yeah, the footage that ends up cancelling Douglas is Madeline's doing. And I know she only did that because he told people about her and the producer, because he was her idol and he let her down. Now, I know they would absolutely never do it in this day and age. But sometime during the second episode, I took the notion that there was no joke, and Madeline was orchestrating the entire thing to advance her career, right? Which I found much more interesting. We see that she's wanted to be a newsreader since she was a child. What if she was this ruthless Machiavellian that was playing this long game like Frank Underwood or something? and again, I know this would never happen, the woman would be cunning and manipulative, like that was possible. But seriously, maybe show her being let down by Douglas really early on, like when he's signing his book for her.
Yeah.
Right? Or she sees, the poison in the industry and cultivates her scheme as a result. We do see her experiencing that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be a stretch. And it's a bit contrived, right? But wouldn't it have been cool if she got herself into this hotel room with a producer, made sure Douglas saw it, and counted on him to talk about it, because that's what men are like.
Yeah.
And later used it to ruin him. And an attractive woman could do that. Some do that. Use their beauty to get to the top. And yes, she wouldn't be particularly likable, but it would only be possible, that scheme. She would only be able to do that if men were guileless, spineless, and treasonous dogs.
Yeah.
Everyone's a shit. An equal opportunities firing squad. I think there was a much more interesting show there. If I'm seen going into this hotel room, people are going to talk behind my back. I can count on that happening. And yeah, that's good. Everyone is kind of horrible in that scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I know that's not what the show is trying to do, and they would never make a show like that.
Well, it's very clearly not the show he wanted to make.
No.
He did want to make a show that was kind of talked about cancel culture.
Yeah.
That was sympathetic to the victims.
The canceller.
Yeah, the canceller. Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting that the way he went about doing that was he started with a show where it seemed like he was going to be doing the opposite, where he was going to lambast.
Yeah, and lampoon.
Yeah,
the kind of woke left. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, Douglas he's a nice guy, leave him alone, he did nothing wrong. Like, that's how the show starts. As you say, like, the woke daughter, and Alex Kingston's, snowflake
like secretary or whatever she is.
Yeah. Who, like, can't even tolerate being in her company. She's so, like, afraid of her.
Yeah.
She has to wear, like, headphones, even though Alex Kingston is shouting at her.
She's like,
get
I'm not going to attack you.
Yeah.
You're safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's very big.
Yeah. And so it kind of, like, lulls you in, almost.
Well, again, it's having the cake and eating it. Because you can laugh at that stuff and then, So right at the end, Madeline says that she believes that there are armies of men out there who aren't like Toby, the producer.
Yeah.
Then she says, but where the hell are you? Right? That is where it totally lost me at that end post.
Okay.
A, because again, it's having the cake and eating it, right?
Yeah.
And B, it's just silly, isn't it? It's just a stupid thing to say. Because most men are like that. That wouldn't... Well, I don't know what the numbers would be. But it's like a woman working in this industry. She says to Douglas, there are armies of decent blokes. I keep thinking that, but where the fuck are you? Like, oh, get a grip.
Right.
Most men are decent. Do you know what I mean? So at that point, I kind of thought, oh, go fuck yourself.
Okay.
It was just too much kind of having it both ways for me.
I think it would be different if she said that. Because, I mean, I believe that character believes that, and not the show necessarily. Like, that's a belief of the character that the show is showing. So maybe it would be different if someone had a response to that. Maybe if Alex Kingston had something to say about that. Yeah. But it doesn't. The fact that characters stay quiet when she makes that point, it gives the impression as though it's the show's belief as opposed to the characters.
That's the line of the show. Yeah. The show is building towards that line. Yeah. That there are armies of decent men, but they don't seem to do anything. Yeah. That's kind of the ethos of the show, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, there are things about it that I liked. I thought that the dialogue was very well written, but it lost me at the end, which is a shame because it kind of contaminates the rest of it. But yeah, it was okay, Yeah, I think that obviously you can't uncouple it from its politics. No. Because it's such a... Like, that is a political reality that we're living in. Cancel culture and this idea that, like, oh... Which they're now ready to admit, yes. Yes, yeah. Women are victims, men are bastards, or, some men aren't bastards, but they don't seem to be anywhere. And all of that, it's a reflection of the times in which we live. But I think that it's unfortunate because it's just taken as a show, as a construct, as an artistic construct, it's quite neat. Yeah. If it wasn't in a context... cultural context where this stuff is happening. As you said, there's like loads of fun little constructs and inversions where things unfold in the way you expect, but not because of... Like, the cause of those things is different from what you expect. Yeah. Like I said, Douglas obviously does get cancelled, but not in the way that you could predict. Yes. And it's not like a Dexter Season 8 ending where they just pull something completely out of left field, where it feels like the point of it was to surprise you. Yeah. It makes sense
the thing that ends up getting him cancelled. And it's an irony given what the character has previously said.
It's predictably unpredictable.
Yeah.
And if you go into the show, you know that if he gets cancelled, it will be for something that happens during the show later. You know that it probably won't be about him, that there'll be an irony to the title, especially in this day and age, just calling a show Douglas is cancelled. It's going to raise so many people's heckles.
Yeah.
That it's going to, oh, don't worry, we kind of unpack that. And,
Yeah, and it's not misogyny or being a good German that gets him cancelled in the end. It's his kind of... almost
it's
like
his outrage, isn't it?
And just like the industry. It's like, oh yeah, the news lies to you. Don't you know that? That's what ends up getting him cancelled.
Yeah.
People being outraged by him going, like, it's all bullshit.
A lot of hues in the news having
yes,
bad...
yeah.
Okay, anything else to say about Douglas is cancelled?
Not really. I mean, it's a show that I think you've got to make your own mind up about it, really. And it will... I think it will be informed by where you land politically.
Yes.
I don't think it's the type of show where if you're neutral or you're open to having your mind changed, it's going to pull you in one direction or the other.
No, you'll probably leave much the same.
Yeah.
I wouldn't discourage people from seeing it. I enjoyed a solid half of it, and it is funny. Yeah,
and I think even though it's less funny in the second half, I think the drama is fine. It's not as if the drama is weaker than the comedy. Like the show maintains a level of quality, even though what it's trying to do, like its intentions, sort of shifts.
Yes.
But yeah, I think you won't really know until you watch it. You won't know what you think of it.
No, yeah, and it's only 4 episodes, so you might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Season 1 of The Acolyte.
Oh, the Star Wars.
Yes. I've got not much to say about this.
Well, it's Star Wars, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Star Wars. It's Star Wars that is set before there was Star Wars.
It's set, I think, 100 years before the Empire.
Yeah. And the result of what would Star Wars look like before there was Star Wars is it looks like Star Wars. Pretty much.
So for most of its life, Star Wars has been boring.
Okay.
It just has. And, speaking generally about the series, there is something to the blend of futuristic sci-fi and history, quote-unquote. Obviously, everyone knows Star Wars is fantasy and sci-fi clothing. And the fact that it all takes place in the past, a long time ago, adds a mythological or religious dimension to it. The Acolyte takes place a century before the rise of the Empire. It's possible that the trained eye would be able to chart historical progress in the Star Wars universe, but I can't.
No.
It all seems pretty much the same to me. It would be interesting if they maintained a sense of, for lack of a better term, historicity. So, droids weren't invented until such and such date.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they need to drop the technology motif. It's hard to imagine Star Wars ever getting that primitive.
Yeah.
But just subtle evolutions. Because, yes, it's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Always the same thing. I rewatched the original trilogy lately.
Okay.
Recently.
Yeah.
I rewatched them lately. And I understand why people are fans of it. But I'm telling you right now, and I didn't not enjoy the experience. 90% of the reason people love those films, and they don't know it, is the music.
No, I think people know it. People know the music is...
Yeah, no. People like the music.
Yeah.
And people are fans of the music. What I'm saying is, if you take the music out of Star Wars, I wonder how much is left that people would really like.
Well, I think we kind of have an answer, because is it the 7th episode of The Acolyte?
Well, the start of the 7th is where I stopped watching. Okay.
I think it's the 7th episode where they end with a pop song.
Do they?
Or at the very least, if it's not a pop song, then it's like an indie... It's a piece of music.
Okay.
It's not Star Wars.
A real world.
Yeah, it's got lyrics and like a pop beat and everything.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, Star Wars, I don't give a shit about Star Wars. At the end of Star Wars, I will not call it A New Hope. At the end of Star Wars, there's the scene where, Luke and Han get the medals. And the music is swelling and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I got a lump in my throat because the music is so good. I don't give a shit about Star Wars. So I'm telling you, if you took the score off those films and they played out without score, I don't think people would have much time for them. Okay. And it was just a revelation how important the music is. Yes, everyone knows it's good. It's a good score.
Yeah.
But you strip it away, you go, I don't really want to watch it now. I think it would be a surprise to a lot of people. There's a fire in space at one point.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's been drained of purpose. What matters in this universe?
Well, I resent that we have to talk about this, Sam. I resent that you've made me talk about this.
I didn't make you talk
this show is remarkably unremarkable.
It really is.
If this did not have the Star Wars name attached to it, no one would watch it. No one would be watching it. There would be no reason to talk about it. We wouldn't even have watched it.
I mean, it's always the same thing.
Yeah, even before I know the Jedi are in this, but even before the Sith, I think there aren't supposed to be the Sith at the moment or something.
I don't know.
It's like, oh yeah, we're living in this peacetime where the Jedi are kind of just out there doing their thing, and you've got this Kylo Ren looking guy with a lightsaber who's all like, ooh, the Jedi, let's embrace the dark side and kill the Jedi. Well, you really can't have. I haven't seen all of Star Wars. I know Andor is supposed to be the exemplar. Where it's Star Wars can move beyond
Andor is
Skywalkers and the lightsabers and all that.
Is okay.
Yeah.
It's good. Andor is good.
Okay.
I'm just not a fan of Star Wars, really, but Andor is good. It's doing something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of dealing with political...
Which I haven't seen it, but I know the second season's due at some point, so I might watch the first in preparation for
that's it. It's conceived as a 2-season thing, that's it.
Okay.
It's over.
Well, that would be nice, because, watching this, it's just, It's shows like this that make you think wow, there really is nothing to get out of Star Wars. There's nothing to do with Star Wars.
Honestly, Star Wars has mostly been boring. Star Wars is good. The Empire Strikes Back is good. Return of the Jedi is pretty weak.
Yeah.
And Andor is decent. Everything else is rubbish.
Yeah.
Everything else.
It's one of these shows that whether you like it or not matters, culturally, and that's what I hate.
You mean it's a culture war thing?
Yeah.
Well, because this is kind of the woke Star Wars, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the gayest Star Wars has ever been,
it's
which
gay.
Is something that an interviewer actually said to whoever the creator is.
It's gay, it's black, it's essentially the thrust of it is, the Jedi heroes, Jedi being America in this kind of metaphor, but no, they're actually colonialists, they're imperialists, and they massacre this kind of coven lesbian collective thing,
which is it's ridiculous because the idea is that the Jedi are actually shit because they went to this colony that are just minding their own business and they killed everyone,
Native Americans, all that sort of thing.
But the reason that Squid Game, I don't know his name, but the reason that Squid Man kills one of the witches is because she turns into this massive cloud of black smoke. He's never seen this before. He doesn't know what her... They've had a very hostile confrontation before this. One of the witches had possessed one of the other Jedi that were there. They don't trust them. She's turning into a cloud of black smoke. So he stabs her with a lightsaber, perfectly understandably, I would say, because what the fuck is she doing?
Yeah.
I can't take any risks. I need to stop her. And then as she's dying, she goes, "Oh, I was going to give you what you wanted, you bastard." It's well, how was he supposed to know that?
It's interesting, isn't it?
The Jedi are not...
Yeah.
It's just supposed to be the big thing that they did, that the Jedi is shit. And it makes perfect sense to me.
It's interesting because this happens a lot with things that people write, where it's unintentionally what they were going for ends up... So what I'm saying is, right, if I was a Star Wars fan, even as a non-Star Wars fan, you say, in this, the Jedi kind of depicted as being these colonialists, whatever. I'll go, no.
Yeah.
Nah, not having it really.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars is simple. It's they're the white hats. They're good. They're good. Sith bad. That's it.
Yeah.
No nuance or complexity needed, right?
And that's not a bad thing.
No. That's what Star Wars is. It's mainstream. It's the most mainstream of mainstream entertainment.
Yeah.
For children, really, right? Yeah. So it should be incredibly simple. So on that level, it would be a no. But even within the context of the show, within its own logic, you're saying it's completely understandable why he did what he did.
Yeah.
So even the writers who are trying to create this thing of kind of a critique of the patriarchal Jedis have created a situation where someone like you can watch it and walk away thinking, well, he was totally justified.
Yeah.
How hard is it to create an unjustified slaughter?
Yeah.
It's... So, even then, they can't, unbind themselves from... Well, the Jedi aren't bad.
Yeah.
So it just shows that they couldn't... Even with their own ideology and their own intention for the show, they couldn't execute it with any conviction.
Yeah, well, I would say so. Because there are people that are saying, he was totally in the wrong for doing that. Right. I just can't see it.
Okay.
I mean, put yourself in that situation. I know it's a ridiculous situation to put yourself in. But think of like something analogous. You've gone somewhere and you want to like...
it's a reach.
All right, someone's come here.
Go on, yeah, all right.
Yeah, you've gone somewhere, there's like a child or something you care about.
A dog. A golden retriever.
A golden retriever is there,
Yeah.
and you want to take the golden retriever with you. And the golden retriever wants to come with you.
Okay.
But the person who's there with the golden retriever doesn't want you to have it.
Okay.
You and this person have been there's been tension between you. You've been arguing. You both think that the other person is going to like do something bad to you.
Okay.
To stop you getting the golden retriever. You sort of come to like you give them an ultimatum, basically saying like I'm gonna take the golden retriever. Mm-hmm. They then turn into a cloud of black smoke.
Okay.
Or they do something
humanly equivalent.
Yeah, humanly equivalent to that. What are you thinking in that moment?
Well, I'm trying to think of because it's not the equivalent of like getting a knife out, is it? Because a cloud of black smoke is, even in the Star Wars context, inexplicable. It's like, what is that? So I suppose it would be the equivalent of the person just starting to go, just in my face.
Yeah.
Instinctively.
Is your impulse, this person's probably going to give me the dog?
No, it probably instinctively whack them.
Yeah. Which I guess is what he did, but just with a lightsaber.
Yeah, if I had a knife or a lightsaber, I might instinctively,
Yeah. And then, so you do that.
Yeah.
And the person, like, as they're dying, they say to you, I was going to give you the golden retriever, you bastard.
So what was up with the incoherent screaming in my face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Do you feel like you're in the wrong for what you did?
No. I think they were behaving oddly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Why'd you do the black smoke thing? Okay, well, I don't think I got to that point. I mean, I gave up at the start of episode 7, not for any, like, one reason.
Okay.
It just struck me that I was watching it.
What am I doing?
I had given it enough of my time.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think like that obnoxious kind of modern politics, it seems to be perennial in Star Wars now. This is definitely the wokiest of the woke Star Wars.
Yeah.
But that's what it's Disney now. It's not George Lucas. But one of the things I'm seeing that's interesting about it, because we were going to review Phantom Menace at one point. This ties into that. The stuff that I see on, about all the memes about Star Wars online, it'll be like a design of a character from Ahsoka or from the Acolyte, and a character from, I think, the prequel trilogy, not even the original trilogy. And there'll be a character with like quite a, elaborate facial design, and it'll say George Lucas, spending 4 years crafting, 4 hours is accurate, spending 4 years crafting perfect design for blah 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 blah, and then in the Acolyte, like, just white face, right? And it's like so there's this kind of resurgence, and not the older generation, our generation, that are fans of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
The older generation hates it.
Yeah.
But our generation grew up with it.
Yeah.
So they will defend George Lucas to the death. Whereas he is awful. The prequel trilogy written and directed by him are awful. He wrote and directed the original Star Wars, and that was a miracle that it ended up being decent.
Yeah.
He stepped away from The Empire Strikes Back sensibly.
Yeah.
And Return of the Jedi. But then, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, those are his babies. And they're terrible. But it's just funny now seeing, like, as though, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something equivalent. Snyder and Nolan. Like someone, looking at Snyder going, God, those Nolan films, they were... But that's not even a good comparison, because every fucker likes Snyder as well, so... you get my point. It's... No, George Lucas, not a good thing.
No.
But there's this complete resurgence.
Also not good thing.
Also, different kind of not good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with these Disney things, and the same with Marvel, it's... With some exceptions, they might be politically horrible, but they're all competent. They're all fine. You don't watch The Acolyte and walk away with the same thing you do from, like, The Phantom Menace.
No, it's actually depressing, because The Acolyte is a very well put together TV show.
Yeah.
It looks like a film.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have any jank to it that you would expect from, like, a straight to Disney Plus show. Yeah.
All clean.
Yeah.
It's all just, all these things now, they're just kind of churned out, and they all look okay.
Yeah.
They all look pretty good, I would rather watch something like The Phantom Menace, which is just kind of inexplicably awful, and has a character to it.
Yeah.
Than something like this. It's like, yeah, that was fine, but its message was horrible. And
I think that is a problem, is that this has no character to it.
Yeah.
And I imagine that is also a problem with the other Star Wars shows. I haven't seen many of them. I haven't felt compelled to. I don't know why I watched this one over the other ones, because I didn't watch Andor, and that was praised.
Andor's praised. Obi-Wan is kind of the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, everyone loves that, obviously, but,
Well, yeah, I think I watched the first season, and I remember thinking, really? This is... Like, there were bits of it that were all right, but I just found it strange. Like,
people just love Star Wars.
Yeah.
They just love whatever it is. Star Wars fans, I'll take it.
They're not taking this, though. Because it does seem that the people that are praising this are not Star Wars fans.
Yes, I agree.
It tends to be people that are more politically left-leaning.
Yeah, they just like the representation and the themes and all that.
Which is just, that's what's so frustrating about a show like this, is that you're not taking the show on its own terms.
Yeah.
It's that kind of tribal thing. And it works both ways, because there are people...
It is, it's tribal.
Yeah, there are people that won't give the show any credit. They'll kind of say, everything about this show is shit.
It's very frustrating. One of the things... So we won't go into it deeply, but it raises the spectre of this for me. There have been riots in the UK, kind of from far-right, initiated by far-right groups, as a result of misinformation spread online.
Yeah.
And when the BLM riots were happening in 2020, I was one of the people very vocal about, like, these are criminals, it's awful, they're killing people, and, at least wait for information to come through, but even then, violence is never the answer. And a lot of the people that would agree with me then, as in older people, certainly not our generation, are now kind of excusing or coming up with excuses for what's happening. And it just bothers me. It really bothers me. Like, no, you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
Philosophically consistent. And one of the things I'm learning as I get older and older, really, and I don't want it to sound self-aggrandizing, by implication, you can't trust on anyone to get anything right. You just can't. It's sides, and if your side's doing it, it's fine. And if the other side's doing it, it's bad. And, I've talked to people that kind of was like, yeah, I know it's wrong, but you get it, don't you? Like, no, I don't. I absolutely do not understand it.
Yeah.
And you have to give a thing its dues. Like, what was the film that won... Didn't Suicide Squad win an Oscar or nominated for an Oscar or something like that? For makeup?
Yeah.
Probably deserved it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, to be fair, I can't say. But, it could... I can well believe that the film had good makeup.
Yeah, the makeup was fine. I think it lost to Star Trek Beyond. No, Star Trek Beyond lost to Suicide Squad, sorry.
Okay.
I would say that Star Trek Beyond had the better makeup that year.
Fine, okay. But, people saying, Suicide Squad's now an Oscar-winning film or something. It's like, yeah, but for makeup.
Yeah.
Like, you have to give a thing its dues. So, yes, it's all very depressing. It's all very tribal.
And it's all very naff.
And it's all very naff.
Star Wars is very naff.
I saw the TV glow. Final thing, I think, for this episode. Oh, we've been all right this episode. We've done quite...
Don't say that now.
I know.
There's still more episodes.
This is the big one, to be fair. Well, I have complex feelings about I Saw the TV Glow.
Okay.
There are things I really, really like about it. I think it's definitely important in this case, more than any other, that we explain the setup.
Yes.
Do you want to give it a go?
Okay, I will give it a go. But once I've given it a go, is this also just going to be a spoiler discussion?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So listen to the premise and then stop.
This is one of the ones where usually we'll say spoilers like after we've already spoiled stuff. No, this is one of those ones where I don't want to ruin it. Anything. So, yes. If you want to watch it, spoilers.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So the film... Well, the film is a vibe, isn't it, Sam?
Well, what's the plot? I think we'll get to the vibe and all that kind of thing, but just explain what the plot is.
Okay, the plot, you've got Justice Smith.
Yeah.
Initially not Justice Smith, but he becomes Justice Smith as he gets older.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this guy. He's kind of living a life that he's not very happy with. Mm-hmm. And...
he's this kind of lonely, isolated kid.
Yeah.
That's kind of bullied by his father and...
It's kind of like small town America kind of place that he's living.
He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't speak very much. He's kind of a wallflowery kid.
Yeah, but then he kind of... a TV show catches his attention called The Pink Opaque.
Yes.
Which is very Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
But aimed at a slightly younger audience.
Yeah, kind of more of a tween.
Yeah, 12,
audience.
11, 12, yeah, and it's very 90s.
Yeah, and he starts to connect with a girl in school that also has a fascination with the show. She reads the episode guides.
Yes.
And he starts sneaking out of the house to go on secret sleepovers so that he can watch the show with her and her friend.
It's set in the 90s as well.
It's set in the 90s as well, yeah. That's very much the very 90s film in that respect. And things get weird.
Yeah, okay. So, firstly, the Pink Opaque, the show they watch.
Yeah.
It looks like a genuine 90s show.
Yeah, it's they captured it very well.
They do it very well.
Even all of the jank that you'd expect from a show of that era is present.
Yes. And the credits even, they're kind of reminiscent of Buffy. And
yeah.
I think the creator of the show is Josh Pemberton. I know not the surname so much, but Joss Whedon, Josh Pemberton. I don't know, for me there was a bit of a...
Oh, okay, all right.
Maybe, I don't know, because I know Joss Whedon isn't so hot at the moment with that ilk. But yeah, it's Buffy aimed at a younger crowd, and the influence of Buffy is very much felt in the film.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the music.
Yeah, shoegaze is the key word, I think.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It reminds me of those... The score reminds me of those early noughties shoegaze indies like Lost in Translation. Takes me back to being 17 and discovering all these films and this music and feeling things more acutely.
Yeah.
Waiting for the bus on a winter morning where my crush would be, freezing and listening to Maps by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs on my headphones.
I know exactly what phase of my life this film took place in, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. And it's when you were 16, 17.
Yeah.
Some of the music is also reminiscent of Twin Peaks and David Lynch works in general, and I've read that they were influences. But yeah, it's very Angelo Badalamenti, especially in that club scene.
Yeah, there's a moment where he kind of reconnects with the character much later in life. Well, I say much later, a little later in life.
Yes.
Because she kind of disappears randomly, and around about the time she disappears, the show also stops airing.
Yes.
So it's like he's lost something major in his life, and then it all starts to creep back in. Mm-hmm. So they're in this bar, and she's kind of talking about where she's been, and it just starts showing the people performing on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I've only seen the third season of Twin Peaks, but that feels very Twin Peaks.
That's the only season where they do that. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So yes, and just David Lynch works, like I said, Angelo Badalamenti, so the score for Blue Velvet, all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's in there. In line with the music, I love the atmosphere that it conjures.
Yeah, it's a very thick atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's dense. It's infested with a very distinct melancholy. And the villain in the Pink Opaque is Mr. Melancholy.
Yeah.
There are elements of the kind of memory warp that we see in things like Mr. Robot. It also put me in mind of Moonlight, so the same type of central character, similar moods at times, and the theme of self-actualization. The very bleak ending as well, and it is very bleak. As well as some other elements throughout, physical grotesquerie and physical weakness, reminded me of Charlie Kaufman. Yeah. So at the end, we see the character, it's 20 years after the fact, and his lips are all chapped because he has breathing issues and he has asthma.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, it's just really unpleasant to look at.
Yeah.
So that's very Synecdoche, New York. It captures childhood in a way that I recognised. Not just those hormonal secondary school blues, but before that even, forbidden sleepovers, being in the backseat of the car, asking your mum or mam for something while being derided by an abusive quasi-step-parent in my case, but
right.
Owen's father in the film. If you know anything about the filmmakers or the actors, the film is coded as what it is, which is an allegory for being transgender.
Yeah.
Justice Smith is queer. Bridget Lundy Payne is queer and non-binary. Jane Schonbrun, the writer-director, is non-binary and trans. Now, full disclosure, I'd seen We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is Schonbrun's first film, which I quite liked, and I rewatched that the other day. But I knew nothing about Jane. And I knew nothing about Bridget Lundy Payne. I feel like I knew Smith was queer, and he presents as such. And there's a lot of pink in the visuals.
Yeah.
So I did guess relatively early on that it was going somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, I think even if you don't know going in that this is a transgender allegory.
Yeah, yeah.
It does kind of feel like it's that later on.
Yes. And, trying hard to be fair about it and objective about it and even compassionate about it. When those themes are invoked, my natural impulse is to be alienated.
Okay.
Just because of the state of film now, and, whenever we see trans depictions, it always just feels wrong, and, not feels wrong, but they've gone about it in the wrong way, or,
Okay.
That's just the way it is. So, I feel like returning listeners will know my views on non-binariness and all that kind of stuff. But put that stuff aside. Other than flashes of Owen wearing a dress, when Maddie, the friend, starts to tell him, listen, the show that we watched together, what are your memories of it? What were we doing? Really think about that. And you get glimpses of him wearing a dress.
Yeah.
Implying that his experience of the TV show was actually him coming to terms with his gender.
Yeah.
Other than that, the film isn't on the nose or even explicit about it. And more broadly, I would say the film could be an allegory for anyone that feels like they don't belong.
Yeah, I mean, sort of towards the end, there is this, the character literally has to, they're being told that you have to, let your old self die.
Yeah.
So that feels like it's leaning more towards...
Well, you could, as a metaphor, there's a whole phrase around die before you die, you have to let one identity go to embrace another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because of the way the world is now. Identity tends to be discussed in terms of gender identity. But no, you die before you die, it applies to any kind of self-actualization or growth, right?
Okay.
But no, that is what it's going for. But if you want to view it through a different lens, you can. I mean, I actually identified with preteen and teen Owen. His childhood looked a lot like mine in some ways, right? There's a scene where Maddie asks Owen if he likes boys or girls. And he says he doesn't know, he just knows that he likes TV shows. Now, I was a bit of a late bloomer. By 11, I would say I tuned into my attraction to girls, but my early life was dominated by a love of film and TV, and one could argue that has persisted. But being a kid and reading episode guides and obsessing over minutiae, I definitely related to Owen. So there's that. But when he tells Maddie that he doesn't know if he likes boys or girls, that there's just this big nothing inside him, I thought the character was asexual. I thought that's where it was going.
Okay, all right.
So I think there's a lot of space for you to make it about any kind of alienation you want.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Well, didn't you say before that the writer-director has...
Well, that's what I want to talk about now.
Yeah.
And it makes me reticent to even talk about it or bring it to everyone's attention. Because, if you want to walk away with different interpretation, you can. But I think it's important that we flag this up. We've been told, in no uncertain terms by the filmmakers, that it's about being transgender.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. Firstly, for not letting the film speak for itself. Secondly, for limiting its meaning. Thirdly, that's rule number one as an artist. You do not tell your audience what your art means.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of the themes and the identities of the people making it, and the sociocultural realities of our time, it will of course be considered not just acceptable, but important that they tell us that.
Yeah.
I can appreciate stories about all kinds of people, but frankly, the world of transgenderism personally means nothing to me. And if I'm going to enjoy this film beyond a certain level, I have to now do it defiantly in spite of the people who made it.
I mean, how wonderful that a filmmaker was able to make a film that was so personal to them, and to them meant a very specific thing. But to you, it means something completely different.
Yeah.
And you were, even though you haven't read it in the same way in a way that matches the director's intentions, you were able to connect with it and pull something from it.
Well, yeah, like I said, I kind of...
That's what you want from art, right?
Absolutely. And
yeah.
like I said, you kind of suss that it's probably about, either sexuality or transgenderism, because, it's in there.
Yeah.
But it's not that explicit. Like I said, except that flash, he's wearing a dress and he's kind of coming to terms with it. But I could have walked away not really, that wasn't a big deal. I could have come with a different thing. But now, no, I've been told. I've been informed that that's what it's about.
It's like when the Wachowskis said, The Matrix was a trans analogy all along.
Which is a lie.
Well, even so, how many readings and interpretations of The Matrix have now been completely invalidated?
Yeah, I mean, The Matrix... I had the ultimate collector's box set kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what they did on those commentaries, they got critics that didn't like the film and philosophers that did to do commentaries.
Okay.
Right? They said if they'd had more money, they would have done the flip side of that as well. But, I ardent fan, listened to all of that. I am pretty sure that gender didn't come up once in those commentaries. A, because this was 2003.
Yeah.
And... things weren't so nonsensical, and B, because it wasn't a trans allegory. But anyway.
Well, it ties into that, you pointed it out before, and I don't think even just you, I think that other people pointed it out before as well. There was a time during the 90s, the late 90s, where a lot of cinema was centered around the idea that things are going too well.
it can't be true.
So, yeah,
it's too good to be true.
Everything's a lie. Something is wrong. Fight Club did it. The Matrix did it. I mean, The Matrix, we live in a very functional, normal society. It's all a lie.
Yes.
Humanity is imprisoned by machines. We're batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like that's where The Matrix came from.
Mm-hmm.
It could be read as a trans analogy. There's nothing to say it couldn't. But why limit it to that?
Exactly. So when I saw the TV Glow, it's about self-actualization, but you're being pulled in the direction of transgenderism.
Yeah.
But you could leave with your own interpretation.
Yeah.
The Matrix, it's blank canvas self-actualization. It's about Neo having to come to terms with the fact that he is the one, realizing he is the one. Now, in real-world terms, that means nothing. It's a completely fantastical concept, but he's the one destined to destroy the machines, all that kind of thing. So it is literally just about self-actualization in all ways.
Yeah.
So yes, as a trans person, you could walk away going, oh my god, that weirdly captures my experience. Yeah. It's about all self-actualizations. And the fact they come out and say that. And also the fact that two brothers that both happen to be trans and there's no social contagion to it. But I will nonetheless credit them for a product which on its own does allow for interpretation. If I hadn't just told you that, then you might well walk away going, yeah, I'm going to decide that's about, being an abused kid that couldn't talk to people.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to decide that's about being gay. I'm going to decide whatever, I Saw the TV Glow is a good, evocative, eerie title, but it's not really a horror film. There are aspects of...
I was going to say, it has its moments.
Well, there are aspects of Lynch...
Mr. Melancholy,
Yeah. And when the mouth opens and everything. And the darker side of Charlie Kaufman, like I said. But horror is just one ingredient in the mix. It's not a horror film. It's more of an art film without the implication of being insufferable that typically implies. Its genre is melancholy.
Yeah.
It should clearly be called The Pink Opaque. And
yeah, why not? Why isn't it?
Well, I can only imagine it isn't because a lot of people don't know what opaque means. I'm thinking now as a marketing person. They don't know
No, people know what opaque means.
I mean, without being snobby, a marketing person would go, people don't know what opaque means. What does opaque mean?
Yeah, but those are the marketing people that we make fun of because they don't know anything.
No, I know, but I wrote a script for university. I swear to God, it is not me pat myself on the back or anything. That just wasn't... I wasn't being florid. Yeah, I was just writing a thing.
Yeah.
And my lecturer said to me, thank God you're writing in the UK because Americans won't understand this.
Right.
So, and his father was American. So I'd say never underestimate.
Okay.
Yeah. But actually I was going to say something earlier about the interpretation thing. The first script I ever wrote, Empire of Dirt, when I was 15, 16. And, it's kind of essentially it's very short filmy, first effort, kind of bit pretentious, the way it was written, certainly. And the best one, I still remember to this day, one of the best things that happened to me, it was about something very specific, which was about moving on after the death of a loved one, essentially. And people read it, and we had a mutual friend at the time who read it and said, oh, so it's like about aliens, right? And the fact that's so far from what I was writing about was like a big point of pride to me. I was like, yes, sure. if you want,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I was going to say, so, I mean, you obviously enjoy the fact that something that you wrote had different meanings to different people.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that read it were able to connect with it, even if they weren't connecting through the same way. So if you are an artist and you write something which has a very particular meaning to you, and someone watches it and they enjoy it, but they don't pick up on that meaning, or they take something else from it, are you, is it just us? In terms of oh, no, you're wrong. It's actually about that. I'm not saying that she said, the writer-director, I don't know which way they've gone trans. I don't know whether they kind of went, oh, you're wrong, it's about this. Mm-hmm. They were probably just oh no, this is what it is.
Yeah, no, I don't think they were correcting somebody. I think that's just been the conversation about it.
Yeah, but is that just a pet peeve of ours? Or as an artist, should you not give your interpretation of the piece?
No, I think as an artist, you should not you should not tell people what it means.
Yeah.
I think...
Because whatever your opinion of it, even if it's not the intention you had when you wrote it, whatever your opinion there is will become the opinion because you're the author of it.
Well, it's just not art otherwise.
Yeah.
It's a message. It's propaganda. It's a text message. That's what it meant.
Yeah.
No, I think when the Banshees of Inisherin came out and they were doing press for it, there's an interview with Martin McDonagh and Kerry Condon. And in the film there's the lake that she goes to, and she says, oh, we talked about it, didn't we? And we kind of said that maybe our parents had crashed into that lake and that's where they died. And he kind of goes, no, shut up.
Yeah.
And she's like kind of joking. And she's like, oh, was I not supposed to say that? He's like, well, you've said it now, haven't you? So it's like something that wasn't even important really in the film.
Yeah.
Just a little detail. He didn't want to put that out there. Yeah. And Banshees of Inisherin, that's a film you walk away from with a lot to talk about in terms of what it means. And every time he's asked about it, he says, I will not tell you what my intentions were. Because that's not what an artist does. Yes, but in terms of the title, I think an American marketing person probably said, what's opaque? So that's one reason. They're trying to get in a horror crowd, and they may be tantalized by the creepily cryptic nature of the title of I Saw the TV Glow. And probably as well, they figure that if pink is in the title, it might alienate a certain section of potential film goers. Like, oh, is that gay?
Even though it is LGBT.
Yeah, not that such considerations usually stop them.
Yeah.
But those are some possibilities. I think realistically, it's because it's a creepy-ish title. And like the first film was We're All Going to the World's Fair. Again, like kind of what is that? Okay. Second, I Saw the TV Glow. These declarative, kind of, it's a bit creepy. But yeah, it's clearly called The Pink Opaque, which is a perfect title for it as well. Yeah, I liked it. And the more distance I get from it, the more I like it. I rewatched it today.
Okay.
And I rewatched it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's getting darker a bit later now, and it was kind of grey, but the sun was coming up, and it was just perfect.
Okay.
I have to say, like, for a film that's about transgenderism, I know it's odd, like, this would not be my favourite film of the year. It's not my favourite film of the year, but it's high up there.
Okay.
And I think anyone who knows me would watch it and go, what? Sam liked that film a lot. And I do. I love its atmosphere. There's no other film like it. Even though its influences are kind of on its sleeve to some extent. What it's doing, and so it's about these people that watch this TV show that actually turns out to be masking the reality that he's transgender. But then the girl disappears and comes back and says no, because she's also kind of she has her own identity issues. Yeah, she comes back and says no, this isn't the real world. In the real world, we are the characters in the TV show. Yeah. And we've been buried. At the end of season 5, where after it got cancelled, we were buried. And now we have to bury ourselves in this reality so that we might emerge in the real world. This is all a lie. And then he ignores her. It's too terrifying. He kind of doesn't go back. And then he becomes this middle-aged man that is just crippled by breathing issues. And like he's being, he's buried alive. He's being smothered. Yeah. That's such a unique construct. It's like, just to think of that, I think it's very impressive.
Yeah. And the bleakness of the ending is not what you'd expect as well.
Especially for a film that's about self-actualization. Because the whole point is, right, this Maddie girl, who's like a little bit older than him, she keeps saying to him, let's run away. Yeah. And then he loses his bottle. Yeah. And, he knocks on it. Please tell my mother that, this girl's trying to get me to escape. I'm scared. And then she disappears completely, comes back, says, this is what we have to do. And again, he loses his thing. Yeah, but for a film about transgenderism, this is about, wherever you stand on it politically, it's about what kind of happens if you don't self-actualize. What happens if you bury your true self for your entire life. Yeah, it is. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about how haunting it is now when he's at the birthday party, because he works in like a mascot kind of restaurant.
Yeah, right? like a Chuck E. Cheese, arcades, place.
Yeah, and the family are kind of gathered around the birthday cake, and he just screams. And you go, help! And then honestly, he just starts saying mommy. You go, mommy! And it's just fucking heartbreaking. Like wherever, again, see, this is the power of art. Is if we were having a debate about transgenderism, I would come out a certain way. But when you see something like that, and it wins you over. Yeah. I'm not saying it necessarily changes your mind about everything, but it makes a compelling case. That's what art's meant to do. It creates empathy. It's a tool for generating empathy.
Oh, I feel like, I definitely feel like I've benefited from watching it, because what surprised me was when she tells him, we have to bury ourselves. Yeah. So I can't find you in the real world. So you have to bury yourself here. I can find you in the real world. And the kind of the threat of death. Because he's not sure that she's even right. Mm-hmm. So the possibility that he's going to be buried alive and it will kill him is too crippling. The terror is too crippling. Yeah. So he runs away. And he says, I never saw her again after that. Because I would have always thought that, because in that moment, that's a metaphor for, coming out, basically, isn't it? Like, you're going to become your true self now. Yeah. But your old self has to die. You have to leave that behind. And I would have thought that the big hurdle in most cases would be not the fear of letting your old self go. It would be the fear that your new self wouldn't be accepted.
Okay.
So to see a story where that isn't the case, where it's the thought of like, oh, but what if there isn't anything on the other side for me?
Mm-hmm.
Considering that, like, when you typically hear about transgender stories, it's always about, oh, how much happier they are now that they've made the transition.
And even in films, it's usually about the abuse they suffer, but then the empowerment they achieve when they become who they really are.
Yeah, exactly.
To see something.
So to see a character struggle on their own terms rather than, oh, but what will everyone else think?
I think they don't want to face it.
Yeah, exactly.
He just doesn't want to like acknowledge it. He says like when she says to him, you know, like, you like boys or girls, and he says, I like TV shows. He says, when I think about stuff like that, it's like there's this big nothing inside me, and it's confusing, and I just don't want to look at it.
Yeah, which ties into the ending.
Yeah, and exactly, and it's bleak as fuck.
Yeah.
And this thing, all art's manipulation, right? It's like I said, the fact it wins you over, him going, "Mommy," you know, you're like, oh Jesus, just give him whatever he needs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of important that that I stress anyway that my view on transness is I think there are some people for whom gender reassignment is the only good thing you can do for them.
Okay.
I think there are some people in the world that have such dysphoria that, like, no, they're meant to be a woman. They're meant to be a man. And if they're an adult, surgeries, absolutely do it. I think it's a much, 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 much slimmer percentage than everybody thinks. But there are some. So I'm not kind of like, oh, no trans, don't believe in any of that bullshit. No, I think there are some people for whom it's inhumane to do anything else. But all art is manipulation. But nevertheless, you watch this and you go, oh, Jesus Christ. And yeah, the ending is essentially him screaming, no one acknowledging him. He goes into the bathroom, cuts open his chest. There's a big glow in his chest, you know, his true self. And then he comes out and just starts apologising to everybody, saying it's his new medication. And everyone ignores him. Yeah. And the film just ends. And you go, oh my God. It's so fucking dark. And I like that about it. And that was very Charlie Kaufman as well. It will stay with me.
It has stayed with me.
Yeah.
I don't remember loving it when it was on. Mm-hmm. Like, I watched it and I took it on its own terms. And I was like, okay, I see the merits of this film. But it's a film that grows within you, I think.
I think we've had the exact same experience. Yeah. I liked it. I appreciated things about it. I got annoyed when I read up on it and found out that I was meant to feel a certain way about it. And then I just go, okay, its atmosphere stays with you. I think you should rewatch it, knowing what you know about it, because it is just like... It's heartbreaking. And I think it's the second of a trilogy. But I think the third one's going to be a TV series, maybe.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if you like this, go back and watch We're All Going to the World's Fair. It's nothing like this.
Okay.
But it's a young person dealing with kind of themes of alienation involving the internet. So it's called the Screen Trilogy.
Okay.
So it's about... I think Jane Schonbrun is a little bit older than us, but it is a millennial. So kind of grew up with internet chat rooms and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, that's all I've got to say about it, really. I think it's really, really good.
There's a lot about it that I really appreciate. Like I said, they capture the jank of a 90s show very, very well.
They do, yeah.
But then when Mr. Melancholy finally does show up, because for most of the show, he's kind of like that Georges Méliès.
The Georges Méliès
moon.
Face in the moon,
Yeah, he just kind of looks superimposed on
It's
footage. It looks kind of
shit. It's like wearing a moon, like thing around his head. Yeah.
And then he shows up, and it's like a guy where, it's kind of like this moon head that's kind of dissolving and shrinking and expanding.
Leaking. Yeah.
And just the way that it speaks, and then at the end, like you said, when it opens
its mouth just gapes open.
Yeah, and it's like, oh wow, okay. So they're not just relying on jank. Like they're like when they can pull out the stops, they actually do.
Yeah.
That what I was really appreciated is because we both said that like, oh, it's very 90s in its kind of aesthetic and its presentation, and obviously just like the whole era that it's going for is very 90s. Does Fred Durst count as legacy casting?
I know what you mean. The only reason I say no is because I think he's more early noughties than 90s. Like Limp Bizkit, late 90s when they started, but like Rollin' and all that, you could talk in 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
And he represents a different sphere of that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd cast someone like Sarah Michelle Gellar, I guess. Or, you know, it could well be legacy casting, because it is an odd choice.
Yeah, because he's not playing Fred Durst. He's the abusive.
I mean, he's not in it a lot, but he's a prick. You know, when he's in it, like, oh yeah, isn't that a show for kids? Just like berating and you know.
Yeah, he just walks into the house one point, and Fred Durst just staring at him.
Yeah, I think they do something there. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I think they subtly have altered his features to make him look demonic.
Okay.
Because you look and you go, I don't like that.
Yeah.
There's something off about that.
Yeah.
There are some things in the film that are just horrific. And, when he's trying to go into the TV screen, and Fred Durst is like grabbing him and has him over the bath, and he's like spewing out static.
Yeah.
Overtly, like, fucking hell. But more, it's melancholy. It's about utter desolation and emptiness. And I just think to conjure that tone and to have captured that time and that tone.
Yeah.
And I think just for what it is, it's a fantastic act of imagination.
Yes.
There was nothing on the page, and this is what we got. I think it's one of the most original films I've seen in a very long time.
I'd agree with you there. Definitely, yeah.
So I would say that's a recommendation.
Yeah. I suppose I would as well.
I think that's all. I think that's everything I got.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Then we'll see you next time.
All right then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.